good to go? Okay. Do you know, I assume Jake's planning on being here, right? Okay. I know that Mike said he was going to be out of town, so I'd like to welcome you out to our city council meeting this evening. Thank you for coming to attend, and I'm sure hopefully be it a presentation or an issue on the agenda or something, we'll have a chance to hear from you this evening if it's appropriate. So I'll be conducting this evening. I'm Mayor Jeff Acerson, and with Randy Powell, City Council member, will offer an invocation, after which I'll ask our chief, I mean, you're here in uniform. I choose, well, there's several in uniform, but I'll let you lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance again. Okay, Randy?
Our dear Father in heaven, we are grateful to gather together as members of this fine community to ponder upon the things that are before the city. We ask, Father, for thy guidance in being able to discuss these items in a thorough way that will benefit our citizens and our community as well. Father, we are grateful unto thee for this land in which we live in that offers us the opportunity to practice our freedom of religion and to be able to express our thanks to thee in a public forum. Father, please watch over and protect the members of our community, those who protect us and those who fight for us. And we say these things humbly in the name of Jesus Christ. Amen.
Amen. Okay. Chief?
Please rise. Repeat after me. I
pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
I know you're always in uniform, so it's good. Let's go ahead and do a roll call. Randy, you want to start us off, please?
Randy Powell, present.
Van Broderick, present.
Jeff Acerson, present.
Carolyn Lundberg, present.
Mike's been excused, and we'll wait and see if Jake shows up. Okay. Minutes of the April 19th, 2021 meeting, if there are additions or corrections. No. Go ahead, Randy.
Yes, I had a few, and they were just ones that were not quite clear on what my intent was to talk last time. I did send Kathy a page full of just little here's and there's. I can submit that across the board if the council would like to see my little corrections, but I have sent those to Kathy, if that's okay. And then also I have, here's my corrections if anyone wants to see them. And then on page, I wish I had it here. Oh, I think I have it on the back here. Page 13, our last motion that we have, I think, help correct me if I'm wrong, that last motion that we had should have been by Van. There was one by Mike Van Cherry that failed, one by Carolyn that failed for a second, and then the one by Van Broderick that actually was seconded then. I did review the YouTube. It is on page 13 of the minutes, which is page, I don't know, page of the packet, I'm sorry. It's not coming, 17 of the packet of our staff report.
When I re-listened to it, Randy, it sounded like he amended it, but I guess I could add in that with
I did watch the YouTube of it, and we did discuss it for a very long time, did we not? And so is it page 13? Maybe it's 14. I guess it is 14. I apologize. Oh, it is different here. Never mind. Thank you.
I think it's correct.
Okay. I must have been looking at the wrong something.
It's okay.
My bad.
It's better to.
Okay, yes, it was very involved.
Yeah.
Just wanted to revisit it. That's it.
Any other additions or corrections?
I'm good with it.
Okay, a motion to be in order to approve.
I make a motion to approve the city council minutes with the adjustments that Randy Powell sent. And the date on that meeting?
April 19th.
April 19th, thank you.
Okay, is there a second?
I'll second it.
Thank you, Carolyn. Call for the vote. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? That passes unanimously. Thank you. Okay, swearing in. Who's going to be doing that tonight? Okay, Kathy, you want to come forward? We need to do the Lyndon City Treasurer, the new position, or not new position, new person. And then Police Officer Dave Farley, stand in the wings, okay? And we'll do the first one, and then
Yeah, let me introduce Rebecca Gibbons here in the front. She's been with us as our accounts payable clerk and will replace Donna Hackey, who retired. And so we're excited to have her here and really thankful that she's here. She is literally pulling both jobs for the next week and maybe helping out a lot here with us, so.
well, there's an excited look on her face. I don't know if that's because she's overwhelmed or.
She's been fantastic with us, and so, Kathy, up front here then. So the treasurer is required by state code to be sworn in, and so. this is a real-
Okay, Rebecca, if you will raise your right hand and repeat after me. I state your name.
I, Rebecca Gibbons,
Do solemnly swear
do solemnly swear
that I will support, obey, and defend
that I will support, obey, and defend
the Constitution of the United States
the Constitution of the United States
and the Constitution of the State of Utah,
and the Constitution of the State of Utah,
and that I will discharge the duties of my office
and that I will discharge the duties of my office
with fidelity.
with fidelity. Okay?
You're good.
I hope you all feel the emotional nature of that. That is a pretty exciting thing. You are witnessing in a public meeting that you will uphold the Constitution. That's pretty neat stuff. Okay,
Hey, Mayor, City Council, I just want to introduce Dave Farley. He'll be sworn in tonight. He's addition to our police department, our city. He's got some background in animal control at Provo City, and then has been with UVU the last 7 years. Comes to us with a good personality, optimistic, and ready to go to work, and he's excited to be here, right? Yes, sir.
well, that's a very great fit for Lyndon, because we're a little bit of country, a little bit of, we've got animals and people, so that's great. Where do you want him, Kathy?
Right up here, would be fine. That's a good spot.
This is my wife, Sarah.
I hope it's more than a badge that she puts on you, so that's good.
Raise your right hand and repeat after me, please. I state your name.
I, David Andrew Farley,
Do solemnly swear
do solemnly swear
that I will support, obey, and defend
that I will support, obey, and defend
the Constitution of the United States
the Constitution of the United States
and the Constitution of the State of Utah,
and the Constitution of the State of Utah,
and that I will discharge the duties
and I will discharge the duties
of my office
of
with,
my
go ahead,
of
of
my
my office with fidelity.
with fidelity.
You're good. Hey, congratulations.
Here's the real test, if you can pin him without sticking him.
If she sticks him, then there's something else behind the scene, right?
First dates. I might for fun, I don't know. Probably should be.
That put us in full force? We're good?
We're back to full staff.
Okay, great. Well, thank you. I'm going to take a little liberty here, where we've had two families join Lyndon City right now. Do you want to introduce your daughter? I assume that's your daughter next to you, isn't it?
Yes.
And your husband?
Yes,
And is this your son as well?
two.
And son? Okay,
I have these two rows. Mine is that guy.
okay.
my husband Chris, my son Tyler, son Ethan, son Macy, and then my mother-in-law Jan, father-in-law Ray, my dad Jim, and my sister Belinda, and my friend.
Thank you,
And my
thank you
awesome
for
coworker.
sharing her with us. We hope that it's a long and joyful and wonderful time. We appreciate you willingness to be a part of the Lyndon City team. Now, why don't you go ahead and introduce who you have with you this evening?
Absolutely. Down on the end is my son Jesse, Sarah, my wife. This is my son Darian, my daughter Kaya, and this is my dad Don.
Well, I'm glad we hire new people because we get a full house when we do that. And otherwise,
I've got one that wasn't able to make it.
well, welcome aboard, both for you and your family, and we trust that your time here with us in Lyndon will be a memorable one and hopefully a joyful one. So we appreciate your service. Thank you. Okay, council reports. Jake, you want to start us off, please?
Not a lot to report. Had the opportunity with many of you to enjoy the League of Cities and Towns convention. Learned a lot of great stuff.
Hold on just a second, Jake. You're welcome to leave. I mean, we'd love to have you stay, but you're welcome
to
to
hear
leave.
what I had to say, and now they're all.
Interrupting.
Thanks for coming, guys.
Sorry, Jake. I just didn't want you to feel they were walking out on you.
Oh, well, that's okay. I'm not offended. A lot of great stuff from the convention. Met a lot of great people and really just enjoyed it. They just do a great job. I think that it's every time I've gone, I've come back and I feel more educated and more ready to go. So other than that, I don't have anything to report, Mayor.
Okay, thank you. Carolyn?
All right, a couple things. At the League, I was able to talk with former Mayor Ellertson. And as we were looking at the various suppliers who do different materials for cities, I actually was wanting to see Juan, our good man Juan here. Former Mayor Ellertson said that on the trail, that excuse me, that where the trail goes just there where it meets Canal Road and then kind of goes past the church, he indicated there's a location where it kind of has a steep incline or decline, depending on which way you look at it. And that is a dual purpose trail for horses and pedestrian. And he said right now it's very unsafe for horses. It's very slick. And he knows someone that actually their horse fell and we were lucky there wasn't an injury. And so there is a supplier here that he talked with and shared with me that it's just this inexpensive like micro seal little application. I don't know if you're familiar with it, Juan. No. But it would give that a little better grip for any locations where we need to not have it too slick for pedestrians or horseback riders.
Yes.
And if you want to speak with him about the exact location, just in case I don't have it clear enough.
Very good. So. Yeah, I'll wait to hear from the information. You can send it to me.
Okay. All righty. And then, interestingly, today, on the radio, the governor did a executive order limiting water usage for all property, state-owned properties. They're going to, he made an executive order, no watering between the hours of 10 to 6, and also to have the water shut off whenever there's a storm, have their systems kind of controlled. And I know we've looked at that in the past as we go forward. I know Heath isn't here to talk about this, but I think just getting more water-wise practices as a city would be great. I've had some community members mention in the past when we have big storms, our sprinklers are still going off, and I know Heath has explained it's because they require a manual, someone to physically go and manually turn them off. I know one park in particular has 13 different stations, and then when it's time to set them again, it's just very time intensive. So whatever we can do to start putting in smart metering, I think would be great.
I hope we get some big storms to conflict with that.
Yes, so it's an issue at all, right? And then also, I brought up several months back here on 400 North, right there at the nexus of Locust and 400 North. That's a really dicey intersection at times. And it's particularly that Locust is an avenue for a lot of children on bicycles or people walking, trying to get to the city park, trying to get to the city pool, maybe even try to go up to the school. And I know it's on our master plan that's part of the bike path route. In other areas of the city, when we get the funding, we do like a really nice dedicated bike path. But what's lacking there right now, probably in some community members, especially where we may be adding additional community members here soon, there that would be using Locust with the Norton property development. We have a citizen that's willing and had offered to help contribute funds if we're willing to put in like a 4-way stop there. A lot of the traffic coming down the hill gets quite some momentum as they're coming down the hill. And that Locust kind of intersects. I'm not sure it's perfectly perpendicular right now, so visibility is a little tricky. And so this community member, I gave you his name earlier, Adam, I can give it to you again. He's willing to donate funds, whatever, to help improve that if we're willing to do a 4-way stop there. And he said he witnessed a child crossing that he felt like he was worried about that. Again, it reminded him, and he reached out to me, hey, what's going on with that? So would love to see, it sounded like when I brought it up a couple months back that it was seen as a favorable potential place to add some safety measures or traffic calming or something. So
We'll evaluate that. I'll ask our engineers and want to look into that. But we had looked at some improvements. We had talked about that in some of our engineering and coordination meetings. The property on the northeast corner there, the undeveloped field.
Right.
They're bringing in some fill, and they've got some plans pending in the future. We're unclear on when that may be. And there's some communications going on there as far as those improvements and how it impacts that individual's home and property there. They are very close to the street. Yeah. And so they have some concerns about any improvements that the city makes. So there have been some preliminary discussions, but no current plans for widening there. But let me follow up with that.
Maybe even versus if you're just kind of waiting to see what they're going to put forward as a proposal for developing their site, we could explore even just a stop sign. I don't know what
we'll have
that
to look
entail.
at that. I don't want to commit in any way to put a stop sign in when there's never been one there before. I think that's something that we'll need our engineers to weigh in and see.
Okay.
So.
Well, I would love to move forward on. I know it was brought up a while back, and so whatever we can do to move that forward is that road's getting more and more intense. And Locust is on the master plan as major pedestrian bicycle path, and it's just I know when the Norton property had the horse barn there, riders would be trying to go to the arena across there, and it's just it can be quite dangerous at times to try to navigate getting across. All right. Then my only other question was the little tiny bathroom that was installed at Friar Park. Maybe this is a question for Heath since he's not here. It looks like it needs some retaining perhaps around it. They have not yet opened it. Are you aware of anything?
I know he has plans to finish that sometime soon.
Okay.
So it
I'll
is
just
not
touch base with him.
finished. So I know I can tell you that.
Right.
Okay.
Okay, very good. Thank you so much.
I will follow up with you.
That's all I have.
All right, thank you, Carolyn. Van?
I was just going to ask Juan on that patch up there by my street, when that would be happening as little bits of gravel keep going all over.
We've been quite busy with the Water and Streets Department. I don't know if you heard about the major leaks we had on State Street, but it's in this week's patching schedule.
Great.
But we got it on the.
And
I think we sent the sweeper by today to pick up the gravel that has traveled.
Thank you.
Also, not a lot, but ironically, I have some traffic issues similar to Carolyn's. In fact, 400 North and Locust was one of my concerns. And my thought would be, bare minimum at this point, I'd really like to see a traffic study to see if it warrants a 4-way stop. To me, it's imperative. I find my way traveling there frequently as of late, and almost getting hit twice in the last probably month and a half. And it's not like I'm not familiar with that area. It's just the people are coming down at such a rapid speed that I think not only is it safety, but it'd be nice for a calming measure for that. I remember back when I lived on 400 East that when there was not a stop sign heading east to west on Center Street, and the amount of accidents that happened there, and how much that number went down, at least while I was there, by installing a four-way traffic signal or stop sign there. So I'd like to see us also look at that. So I concur with what Carolyn has to say. In addition to that, I've brought this up at least one other time, perhaps two. There is that turn lane out of the Walmart parking lot on the northwest side. It has a left turn lane to get out onto 700 North, and it is a dangerous situation. A resident reached out to me probably 8-9 months ago, and he was involved in a serious accident there. And it's a difficult left turn to make, as you can see that we've talked about before. There's a median to make it around, and if you're getting traffic coming off of the signal and then from the eastbound or westbound and coming off of Geneva Road off of 700 North, trying to make that is a very difficult thing. And I know we've talked about it, whether UDOT will take down some of that median. I think it's necessary to not prohibit a left-hand turn out of the Walmart parking lot there, because in order to get to the west side of town out of Walmart, the only way you could do it is to go out to the signal light by Arby's. And that's the only way you could get there if you don't make a safe way. So I don't know how we do that, but I think again, I'll bring that up to to the powers that be to see how we can solve that.
We had a quarterly meeting with UDOT that literally was just today, and that spot was brought up again. Their staff have evaluated that, and the only alternative besides as is to put in a full median and prohibit left turns. The consensus was that would be more detrimental to traffic flow going in and out of the site. They did not feel that it met warrants to do that with the crash volumes that have occurred at that location. So the consensus was from UDOT, we're not changing anything at this time. So that was their response this morning when we asked about that.
So they don't want to remove part of the median?
They will not remove it. Their solution was to continue the median clear up to State Street. If anything is done, it would be to continue the median and prohibit left-hand turns.
Is there a procedure in which to protest that, or to ask for a reevaluation by?
We can ask for them to relook at it. That was from their engineers, and so there's not a formal protest or anything that I'm aware of. So
I do feel like it's necessary that we have access out of there, just looking for a safe way.
We did as well, and so
Right.
the solution to just block it off and prevent left-hand turns, they felt that wasn't even justified with the level of crashes that have occurred there.
Chief, is it possible to find out what our accident rate would be in that location and have that information sent to me? I appreciate that. Thank you.
We can follow up with them again, but if your request is to remove the median, that was counter of what their proposal was, to extend it all the way to State Street. So
Yeah.
I would be
I'm just
highly surprised if that's what they would choose to do.
I would hope they would not, but at the same time, I'd like to just encourage them to make it safer, and I guess I'll find out some more information and go from there.
I have one more quick question. Adam, you had sent the road improvement forecasting maps. Is that available online for the community yet?
It is not. That's something that Juan and his engineering and public works team has put together for discussion of budgetary issues tonight, and so we wanted to get that in front of you.
Okay.
I'm happy to post that somewhere, but I'll be honest, I'm a little bit hesitant to put that out in a public forum beyond discussion, because our money could change, our decision-making could change in the future. I would strongly encourage you not to go forward to somebody and say, hey, your street's supposed to be repaved in 2 years. That may or may not occur based on funding levels, based on our project budget at the time, what the bids come in at. There's a lot of variables there. So So for those future years, we're targeting those roadways to be improved, but it's not a guarantee until we award the bid.
All right, very
Is
good.
that
At
fair?
least we could, but it would be safe to, at least once we approve this year's budget, that will be public information, I would assume, correct?
For
For
the-
2021 to 22.
That one has already been approved, so.
That one's out there.
Yeah,
We're looking
yeah,
for next
so, in fact, I have that up right now, let me,
Did you all receive the email from the individual that lives out in the Anderson Farms
Yes.
area?
I responded to him on an email, and that, I thought we'd have some discussion on that tonight, so.
yeah, and interestingly, I'm not sure what his address is, but we made improvements out in that Fieldstone area. He said in the Anderson Farms development, which is Ivory's development, but I'm assuming he meant Fieldstone.
I believe it's the one inlet outlet currently that goes through the Fieldstone community right now.
Yeah, so 1700 West is right there. We had a seal coat done in 2019-20, and then in 2020 and 21, we improved with crack sealing down 1700 West. So those were treatments that were already completed. And then in this coming fall, there's another segment of 1700 West, and then continuing down into this area that would receive crack sealing and seal coats. And so those are some of our best roads in town. They're fairly new, and
Did
so
you have a
I
chance
was.
to look at it, Mayor?
I drove it, and I'd like to talk about it. I'd encourage all of you to go out there and drive it, because based on the email, it sounds pretty bad, but
I drove it as well.
it didn't jump out at me, but I don't want to discount what was said. But I thought we ought to discuss it and give it a good look and decide what we should do.
When we have a large development such as that, this is just a question I have, and there's lots of large, heavy trucks going in and out and putting a lot of wear and tear on a public street. Do we ever require the developer to somehow contribute towards the wear and tear? Or do they just put in their own roads?
That may have been done in the past, not anything that I'm familiar with recently.
Okay.
And so.
Yeah, they shouldn't be carrying loads that would compromise the street. If it's damaged, then they're taking too much on the load, and I think there would be a recourse there from the city's point of view if they're doing that, so. But anyway.
There are specific load restrictions in the code. I will say, though, that typically those are only enforced by UHP. Those are the officers who know those restrictions and have the ability to weigh those trucks just right there. So if we see that issue, we may want to reach out to UHP and get their assistance if we see overloaded trucks going. But
So I don't know, this isn't showing up here as a more recent photo, but Anderson Boulevard is actually now completed up to 700 North. And again, in that meeting we had today with UDOT, they are looking at a traffic signal there to see if it would meet warrants. They're running some studies before it even opens, but if a signal is approved there, it would still be a couple years before that were to go in.
They connected that road into it yet?
They do not have that open until they get the approval from UDOT. And
Yeah,
so,
they have their trailer there across there. They've blocked it off, but.
On 2000 West, a traffic signal has met warrants there on 700 North, but again, it's probably a few years out before the funding rises up to the level of that, is what we understand from UDOT. And so there are technically two exits out of this development, heading north on 1700 and then west on 500. Certainly, and then along 500 you can get over to it, and then down 17 you can get to it. So I recall years ago when we were reviewing that development agreement, we had that conversation of having at least those two routes open, and then as soon as this road is opened, that will be a third. He also mentioned no light at 1700. There is a street light there, but I'm assuming he meant traffic signal.
It's traffic.
So there isn't anything that would be able to meet warrants that close to another intersection for UDOT standards. And so we had an agreement years ago that there would likely not be a traffic signal there. It identified intersections that would have signals, and that was not one of them. And so I forwarded that to Juan, and we'll be responding to that gentleman. And
I think we need to have a face-to-face with him and just make sure we address all the concerns that he brought up. I told him I would drive it, which I did, and Jake, I don't know what your impression was, but there wasn't a lot that jumped out at me. I really didn't, and at the time I drove it, it was after work, so, you know, the traffic may not have been occurring, the trucks and stuff like that.
That was on my list here,
Yeah.
for my report, is that on Friday, my grandson and I drove this, and I told him about the letter, and this is what we do for city councils, we address these letters. And so I asked his opinion, he's a sixth grader, but asked him to see what he thought, and he said he couldn't really find anything, he had to really be looking, and we drove every road on Anderson Farm and in Fieldstone, and other than some debris here or there, and I thought, unless Juan got out and just lickety-split, just
Cleaned
swept
it
that
up,
whole
yeah.
area, we thought my 12-year-old boy thought it will look pretty well, and his grandma thought it looked really well along with him. So I'm grateful that we did take a look at that, and thank you.
I felt the same way, Randy, that, I mean, I drove it midday, so the traffic wasn't, I can't speak to the traffic, I could see how it could back up, but as far as road conditions, it felt maybe a little over-exaggerated, condition-wise.
Yeah, there was one little area where where Ivory's doing some sort of offloading of gravel and some dirt, some extra dirt, and there was a little bit of dirt in that area, but it was nothing that was
I
bad.
can say that our stormwater superintendent, Paul Miller, is down there very regularly, and so much so that we get comments from the developers saying this guy's being too heavy-handed and making us clean up and street sweep too often. And so there apparently is a balance somewhere there, but I feel that Paul is very attentive to that type of issue, and so we'll follow up with this individual and see what we can do to help.
That's appreciated. I think that's appropriate, and if there's something he can articulate that's bring to our attention that we can physically see, then see how we can address it. So,
to that point, one of my notes that I made regarding that situation was that, as you said, he's thinking perhaps we should have a signal light there. I agree. I wish that we had a signal light at 1700 West. I wish it was not at 2000, and I don't know how that happened, but I think it's important for our residents to understand that we do not control the signal lights. That is through the state, and it's an education process for us to make sure that citizens know we're trying our darndest to make sure that they are kept safe, and trying to do everything in their best interest. And if they have some concerns, or to reach out also to their state officials regarding some of these issues, and we can help with that as well.
Just as an FYI, Randy, for your comment about not sure how that happened, on 2000 West, that's actually the through street that will connect eventually from the Vineyard Connector up to 700 North, and then on our street master plan jointly with Lyndon and Pleasant Grove, this road 1300 West is planned to curve and connect into that. So that will be a through street that will be carrying much more significant traffic than what would come out of here. And then also this subdivision would have a signalized intersection here, we hope, in the middle of 700 North. And so,
right. But we're saying that it could be a couple more years before we would get one at 200 West, which is
very likely.
And it's just, I wish UDOT would understand that it's a difficult thing for us to handle as a community, to not have that safety in place now before before we have to hit a certain accident level to warrant it to be accelerated on any level. So, and that again, on the midpoint point on 700 North, where the Anderson Farms, the main entrance will be. It'd be nice to, I'm saying that out loud, UDOT. Let's get some funding for that. So, and my last thing on my list was, looks like Holy Cow was a whole lot of fun again, and spent way too much on things I did not need. But, you know, it's a fun thing, and we're so appreciative of having them in our city. So that's it, Mayor.
all right, thank you, Randy. Adam?
Just FYI, the secondary water is fully accessible as of today. Juan and his staff, Matt Winward, and the water crew, they've been working hard to try to make sure everything was ready to go. So as soon as it came down the North Union Canal, it was on. Typically, the canal flows and then we fill the reservoirs, and they've done that ahead of time with some other water sources, and so that was ready to go. They were working over the weekend. And then we had one of our wells that was reconstructed. We've turned that back on, and so all of our wells are up and running. And there was actually, we think, so much pressure, good pressure, that's been part of our issue with the culinary water breaks. And so we're working on that issue, but kudos to our water division staff. They've literally, their time cards, I think they were pushing 30 or 40 hours of overtime in the last 2 weeks. And so very busy, a lot of late nights. I appreciate their efforts, and I hope they get a reprieve here. So, but
Well,
secondary
our water
water's on.
we may have a reprieve. We may run out of water. We won't have any water to give.
Could be. Let's see, the only other item is just a reminder on the election information there that's listed in your staff report.
So if I can ask a question, I know the adjustment we made there on Center Street, that the secondary that would feed the, are we good there? Have we checked it out, or they, okay.
All of them, we left 2-3 messages, we haven't heard back from them, we haven't been able to make direct contact.
You would assume if there were a concern, they'd let us know. Okay, well, I'll try to follow up with him as well, just to make sure everything's fine. So thank you. Appreciate all your work. Okay. Open session. Is anyone here to address the council about an item that is not on the agenda? Now is the time. Okay. Let's go ahead and move on to, there are no consent agenda items. So we'll move on to item number 8, which is a budget work session. And I don't believe we're just going to be talking, right? All right. All right.
There's a tentative budget to adopt also, and the amendment to the current budget.
But then we'll open a public hearing for that, right?
That's the next agenda item.
Yeah, okay. Thank you, Jake and Randy, and I'm sure some of you may have gone down to look at those roads as well. I appreciate that. That's very helpful. It makes me feel like my eyesight's still pretty good.
You were missing anything?
If you receive an email from residents that we can help with as staff, please send that to us. The one that Mike sent me today was the first that we had seen that. And so sometimes people will do that, and they may be issues that we can help resolve quicker. So thank you for forwarding things to us.
Yeah, I just felt that I told him I'd drive through and then we'd discuss it here. So that was what we did. Good. Thank you, Adam. Okay, Kristen.
So, I would like to start out with talking about fee schedule changes, which we want to adopt as of now, because they're with the Aquatic Center, so it would be helpful to get these in place before the pool opens. So there's some additions to our fee schedule. For Aquatic Center programs and camps. And there's just a fee range there so that they can set up the fee depending on what the camp is. Certification courses, again, it's a range depending on which course it is. And then if they sign up for the lifeguard instructor course, and they're an employee with the Aquatic Center, then they can receive a $75 refund at the end of the pool season, so, assuming that they work through the season to the end and they have a good performance. Daily admission fees, Thursday night would be half price night from 7 to 9:30. And then adding to our rental rates at the pool, the opportunity to reserve rent the Shave Ice Shack, to have that open and have the customers purchase or the guests purchase the Shave Ice would be $50, And then if somebody wants to just pay for 400 shave ice and have it open, that would be $300 plus $1 for each additional kid-size shave ice after that. Any questions on those additions?
Sounds like a party, Heath.
You know what?
Yeah, okay.
Okay, and then changes for swim lessons increasing from 35 to 50. Sorry, I'm not wearing my right glasses to see far away. For semi-private lessons, and then for private lessons increasing from 60 to 80. And then for swim team for residents, increasing from 100 to 120, and then for non-residents to increase from 115 to 135. And that is all. So any questions on those?
Those lessons, that's demand driven, I'm sure. We just have the demand for it.
Yeah, teachers are making a little bit more, and so we want to make sure we pass that along instead of the city's portion getting just eaten up.
Great.
All right.
Any questions? Are we good with that, I assume? Thank you.
Okay, so to review, this is the tentative budget and as well as a budget amendment for the 2021 fiscal year. The economy was much better, ended 2021. We're ending this fiscal year better than we thought we were going when we were coming into it. We were projecting to decrease some revenues like sales tax and court fines and building permits 20 to 30%. And instead we're seeing, for sales tax, we're seeing an increase of 7.3% from the 2020 fiscal year. And for building permits, 33% increase from the 2020 fiscal year.
Does that 7.3 include the online sales tax?
Yes.
Great.
Yep, and the economy is expected to increase or to keep growing. We're estimating 4% increase in sales tax, park tax, and transit tax. Those are all sales-based. And then we'll just continue to watch as revenues come in and monitor the economy throughout the year in 2022.
I do believe those steps that were taken at that point were exactly right and prudent at the time for what we knew.
Right, because
So-
we didn't know a whole lot, and it was good that we were able to keep our levels of service while still forecasting that drastic of a drop in revenue.
I agree with Van, a good practice. So the 7.3% increase includes the new change in online sales tax. How much of that increase is from that change? I talked to a few other cities and they said that was a real economic boon for them.
I don't know if we have that level of detail identified. It's a little bit hard to know because some of the reports that we receive, sometimes those names of those companies come in as a doing business as name, a DBA, or it'll be something that we have no idea what it even is. It doesn't have an address attached to it.
Oh, really?
At least on our summary report. We may be able to research that a little bit, but it's an interesting thing that we could look into.
Yeah, no, just curious.
And
I don't need,
do our
you don't
best
need to
guess.
do much work on it. I'm just curious if it hadn't been for that change, where we would have been this year. Is my thinking is how much of that increase is due to actual increase of
significant, but not, I wouldn't say overly significant. And so keep in mind, I think I've showed this before in the past, our top 20 sales tax producing businesses produce 60-ish% of our sales tax. And so those top 20 businesses are really the driving factor of sales tax revenues in Lyndon City. And so overwhelming majority. Does that sound right? It was
Yes.
a 60%?
Yes.
And so in those top 20, Amazon and some of the computer companies, Dell and Apple, are two that pop up regularly. We don't have any retail outlet here for Dell and Apple, and so, but they'll come into the top 30 or 40 periodically on a monthly report.
Is that based on the delivery address being a Lyndon base?
Sales made here in Lyndon.
It's a cumulative
yeah.
of...
And some of those were occurring even before they were required to pay online sales tax. And so what I've assumed a lot of that was, and they're huge numbers in some months, is that some of our local offices, our bigger office developments in the Canopy Park or out by the interchange, they'll come in and all of a sudden furnish 500 computers for a new call center. And I'm thinking, boom, that's the Dell spike that we might see, or that Apple spike we might see. And so, anyway, that, I guess technically, is that an online purchase? That's where it makes it a little bit difficult. I don't know.
No, that makes sense. No, that's helpful.
Okay.
I apologize for backing up here, Heath, but back on the pool Parks and Rec outlay, the $75 refund of fees, I guess that's for the lifeguards to do their certification. One thing that the city did a couple years ago was employees that, as a reward to employees that retained through the full season all the way till September, because there's a huge mass exodus of kids that kind of get burnt out, and staffing the lifeguards gets to be a challenge. And I know Alan said having that carrot still there where they could get a little bonus of some kind for sticking it out the full season. Where did the discussion go with that?
You know, that was moderately successful. There wasn't as many people that took advantage of it, even the ones that did it. You know, it could have been a $100 bill for some of those kids who worked all summer. So we've kind of turned the corner. Since we're paying more, we're turning lifeguards away fast and furiously, and so we didn't want to necessarily start that again if we had applications and applications of good people.
Okay.
So hopefully we're going to have enough staff that we can even hire some late seasons if we need to.
So you actually had more youth apply to be lifeguards than you needed?
I have 3 classes of 20 going right now. They've been full. Wow. People are looking to work here and participate with us, and we've had a lot of lifeguard applications that have been subpar that we're not going to bring back. It's been a very good.
It's a nice change.
Yeah, very good change.
Okay, good to know.
Nice to have a
Thank you.
choice.
It is.
Is our age level,
That levels too.
we raised that, is that correct?
We did, from 15, now we've got 16 and 17-year-olds, a lot of
Nice.
older kids, and it's been really a great blessing. So thank you for that portion of it.
All right, great.
So tonight, in addition to adopting the tentative budget, this is also a work session, so we're going to go through some things and ask questions and bring up any concerns that you have, so that all of those, if we change anything, we can get the proposed budget closer to where you want it. And the proposed budget will be presented at the next meeting on the 17th. So
Is this in the email you just sent us?
Yep, just. So these are revenues without the use of fund balance and transfers. So real revenues, $22.9 million. I can't see, sorry. And so you can see that utility charges make up the biggest portion of that, as well as the sales tax. So the sales tax and property tax, energy tax, telecom tax, that makes up, almost half of a good portion of half of the revenue that the city sees. And for utility rates for the 2022 fiscal year, we're looking at doing a utility rate study in-house with our engineers for water, sewer, and stormwater rates. So we're not sure what that increases at this, or could be at this point. And then in looking at the garbage fund, the Republic Services has a 3-year or 3% increase each year. And then also with our Citywide Cleanup, where we added one in the fall not too long ago, this November 2020 was a big hit. In 2019, it cost the city about $5,200. In 2020, it was about $20,000 because they were emptying the dumpsters every day, and there was a lot more use of those I think with people being in their homes. So we're not sure if it's a COVID spike or if it will be like, oh, more people know about it and they're going to be using it every year this much.
Is there a way to make sure, I don't know if there is a way to make sure that it's somebody not coming outside of the municipality to make access to that, or other than observations?
Checking IDs before they dump at every location.
Yeah, they're not, I don't know that they're
There are other
staffed.
cities that do the same thing though, right?
All of our neighboring cities do it, yeah. PG and
hopefully-
Orem.
Curiosity.
Hopefully that helps, but yeah, that's a good point.
Yep. So to help cover the extra cost of the citywide cleanups twice a year, we're going to be increasing garbage rates a little bit to cover that also. So we're going to looking at increasing garbage rates 6%, 3% for Republic, and 3% for citywide services. So that's what's in the tentative budget.
And our intent with the garbage, just as a reminder, with that solid waste fund is essentially revenue neutral, so that it's just a pass-through cost. So we're covering costs, but we're not carrying a huge balance there. It's not intended, as long as I've been here, to ever be a revenue generating thing. It's meant to handle itself, pay for itself as a service, but not a revenue making line item.
Is 6% really the necessary increase? That's for 1 year all at once?
Tentative, so
Okay, so that's something we can discuss further. Look at that. Kristen, I don't want to throw you off track, but I've been looking through the budget. We had talked about the mini education grants. Shelley Church kind of administers those. I wasn't able to find where they are on the, I was wondering if you could help me know which. They're not in a light.
They're in the staff report.
I'm looking in the staff report, yeah.
At the very bottom.
I don't have the page numbers.
Okay,
So let's see, is the staff report
Yep, on the left.
this one?
Yep.
Okay. And scroll.
I can wait until we get to that portion.
Oh,
if
this
it's
is
an
fine.
area.
This is fine. So I'm going to find the general fund, and it's at the end of the general fund. Okay. So let's see, that's planning. So going down here to the transfers and contributions. And there's education grants. And so it's increasing from 1,000 to 2,000.
Okay,
So what
thank
page
you.
is
I was
that?
just checking on that.
I can't see the page. Is it 42?
Yeah.
42 in the staff, yes.
Okay. So does anyone have any questions on revenues projected for 2022? Okay, going on to expenditures. Just overall, here's a snapshot, almost $25 million. About 1/3 is personnel, capital also about there, and then operations is majority at 40%. And so moving on to personnel, in this tentative budget, there's a 1.4% cost of living allowance increase, and that's effective July 1st. And then a merit increase of 1 step on the pay scale, and that's about 2.6%. And that is dependent on how an employee does on their evaluation. That would go into effect on January 1st, 2022. And in the past, we've brought that back to the City Council in December for final approval. So we put it in the budget and then wait and see how the fiscal year 2021 finishes up with the audit, and then come back in December to see if you're still on board with that merit increase.
How did we do on evaluation scores this last year? 95% plus has been our normal rate.
That's pretty typical, yeah.
Great.
So the cost of a COLA and merit increase for salaries and benefits is $155,000 citywide. And then you can see the breakdown by fund. So $129,000 for the general fund, which is where most of the salaries are, and then less than 10 or 5,000 on the other funds. Does anyone have any questions on COLA and merit increases?
You know, this is a discussion that comes up every year. I think that cost of living, I know we pull that from a national source, correct?
It is, it's actually higher, but we've been decreasing it because there was a 4% cap that we were directed to stay under.
I guess my point is, I think that inflation this year, more than in years past, is a major effect. I know that we're seeing it in Utah in not only real estate prices, but commodities everywhere. And so I know this is something we go over a lot. I feel very comfortable with what's up there, and especially considering that cost of living, that inflation that we're seeing all the way across the board. Don't know if anyone else, you know, this is the meeting to do it, right? If we were concerned about that, I know that this is the time we should talk about. I guess what I'm saying is I'm comfortable with where we're at. I think we've put a lot of legwork in the past to kind of put that 4% cap in there. I'm very comfortable with that personally. Anyone not comfortable with that?
I'm comfortable.
Good.
Yeah, I think that's.
All right. There's some new positions in this budget. There's building inspector, code enforcement officer. That's the same position. So it's split duties, but it would be one full-time person. This was approved in the 2019-2020 budget, and but they weren't able to fill it. Just couldn't find somebody to fill that position. And then it wasn't in this current fiscal year's budget because of the pandemic. And so they're wanting to put it back in the budget and hopefully can fill it.
Have we looked again at outside building inspectors as a contract type employee?
And they have been using one to help out with, I believe, with some commercial developments.
I know Phil and Mike have looked at pricing on that, and in the end, for the same number of hours as a full-time individual, it's a very comparative price. They're expensive.
That is true, but we try to look not just this year, but 3 years, 5 years, what will be our demands.
Some of why we're looking to hopefully bring somebody in-house is Phil and Gary are.
That was my next point. We should be looking for whoever's coming there.
If we can get that individual, fantastic, but that is certainly an underlying hope, so.
And I still put most of that as a building inspector, not the / code enforcer.
Right.
I believe that will be the case.
Yep, and I think if I understand correctly that what they're contracting with is to review the plans, and Phil and Gary are still the ones out in the field. I don't think that they're contracting for the inspections, just for in-house plan and reviews. So. And then another new position is, and again, this would be one full-time person as a public works inspector / blue stakes / SWIP inspector.
Don't we have a SWIP guy now?
So Paul is over SWIP, and he's going to be over it, but he just needs help in that area.
Juan, do you
Going
want
out
to
the
speak to that?
Yeah, so as part of the restructuring of the public works structure, we are going from 4 superintendents down to 2. So Paul would probably be the most obvious candidate to take over sewer and stormwater as a superintendent. And right now, the SWEP part of things take about 50% of his time. So the object is to make him superintendent, consolidate from 4 to 2, and then make that person the blue stake. Right now, 3 departments send 3 different people to blue stake. Of course, water being the more complicated, every month they're doing about 350 to 400 blue stakes a month. So if we're able to take that responsibility away from the water, and the other utilities will be more efficient doing the work. So I think it's a good, and then have a backup. Also train a public works inspector to have that redundancy in case Zach sick or goes on vacation. Get somebody new to start.
And then also, they're looking to hire a GIS intern at Public Works. And then, as Juan mentioned, they're going from 4 superintendents to 2 superintendents and 2 leads.
Much more efficient.
Okay. Yep. Any questions on those positions?
Also, we have a person retiring, the sewer superintendent, so we'll be able to actually spend less on personnel by making this change.
Okay. So we're currently performing a compensation study. The Utah Department of Workforce Services reported for March 2021 that unemployment rate is 2.6%. That's pretty low, and it's definitely below the nation average of like 6%. And then in the report, they said Utah County and I need to read that from here because I can't see very well. That Utah County and the state as a whole saw increases in the average monthly wage in second and third quarters of 2020. This is due to a trend of the lowest wage jobs being in jeopardy due to the effects of the pandemic. Since last year, the average monthly wage increased over 10%. And we've been seeing that as we're trying to hire people. It's getting harder to fill positions. We've had people turn down the position because of wage several times. Had to increase the offers on the same range, but going up steps to get people to come in. So that compensation study is being done now. So, and then
It's been an ongoing concern, but it's ramped up significantly in the last couple of months. We've offered jobs and been turned down when they've been the highest, most qualified candidate, and it's strictly because of pay. And so, challenging.
Yep.
But police is dealing with the same thing, been really difficult to find individuals. Public Works, we're fortunate right now, we've got a full crew, but for a couple of years we were struggling there, so we'll
I
see
don't
what
know
the
a
numbers
sector
tell
that's
us.
not,
So.
I don't know a sector in the locally, well, even, I don't know, I have family members who have personnel staffing agencies, and they can't get them in other portions of the country as well. But yeah, I don't know a person who's been able to fill any of their positions right now. I even know people who are offering money to have people apply for a position and just to try to get people in the door to try to find somebody. And of course, that's not working.
You know, one of the discussions or points people have made is the benefit package. It has not been something that's attractive to them or a big deal. They're looking for the dollar right now. Is there something you can do to, if that doesn't mean anything, move some of the money out of the benefit package and move, I don't know if that's even possible to make it so an option for somebody to look at if that truly is the case. I mean, my counsel to any 24-year-old kid is what, 30 years down the road, but
Yeah, we can look at that and see if there's opportunities to do that.
You know, maybe there's a two-track system where someone that's in it for the long haul or others that are just in it for the short term. And, I mean, I think both of those could be viable. I mean, it may be
Yeah.
an attraction.
Okay, I'll look into that. There might be some tweaks that we can do. They would be foregoing things like insurance and better insurance
or whatever.
And they may
or
do that. I mean,
retirement
they
and-
may be,
I don't know that we have a lot of wiggle room on retirement.
Well,
because
like
of-
the 401k contribution or something like that, or we can explore with insurance. So
Yeah,
there-
something to
there's some
look at.
idea there that,
yeah, just,
yeah. We've talked, with the police, particularly in those positions, and then in a few of these higher level positions, like the treasurer and things, we're including with the job announcement a full page of here's all the other supplementary benefits and here's the dollar values that equates to, and trying to advertise that as part of the job compensation, not just a salary. And so a lot of other entities are doing that as well. I don't know how effective that's been, but it has been something that we've added to more recently to try to market that. Okay, that's a good idea, Van. We'll look at that.
And then insurance premiums, our medical insurance premiums are increasing 4%, which isn't bad. And then the dental insurance premiums are remaining the same. We had a rate lock this year. And so overall, the benefit allowance is increasing 3.8% or $32,000 total for all the employees for next year. Any questions on that?
what percentage are they contributing now? I mean, I know we had some,
3%.
3%. So,
Yep.
okay.
Yep, okay, so moving on to,
Let me clarify, that's 3% of the medical. So there
oh, correct.
depends on if you have family or double, single, and a spouse coverage. But family coverage is 50% of dental, and then that's it.
Yeah, no
So
contribution.
anything else supplemental is all on the employee. So just to clarify.
Yeah. It's still a pretty good package though, right?
It is.
We're doing, I just want to make sure we're still doing well for them, so.
Yep, okay, so looking at general fund capital expenditures, there's 95,000 for city center improvements. And Alex has a list of things that includes, from gutters to painting. And I can give you more detail if you want that.
I see a double there for the public works bobcat and the mini excavator are the same piece of equipment. So you saved us $7,000.
Right on.
Yes.
Nice. What? I just don't know those things, sorry. Okay, yeah. So it got put in under streets and then it got put in under Public Works Administration. So we'll get that taken out.
I think with these capital expenditures, people get so frustrated when the government spends money just to take it out. And so I think we always need to be conscious of that. The next slide or two, there'll be the community center, which I think we should discuss a little bit. The only thought I had on all of these is maybe that arena road. Carolyn, with your committee and your group, is there any scenario where that's not the main entrance anymore? I would hate to put 30,000 into a new road if it's not where the road's gonna go. Does that make sense? Carolyn?
Well,
Is that a,
bobbing back and forth.
Yeah, may I answer on that a little? We've investigated preliminarily bringing a road in from the other side and connecting that road so it's a through road. We've got the vets hall in the way and the bathroom in the way, and then all of the major utilities on a place where we were hoping to make that road against the side of that hill. We don't know any other way to get in there, but that way, then we'd have to go between the bathroom and the vets hall, or other scenarios would be removing the vet hall or something drastic like that. They all wanted a pull-through. They all wanted to have a scenario where they could have a different entry. I just, right now, I'm not seeing it.
But that, even if you did that second entry, it would connect to the current road? It wouldn't replace it? There isn't any of your future plans that have that road going any different way?
Yeah, trying to, whichever the layout may or may not go with improvements of that park, hopefully trying to not do anything that would be undone and a waste of funds, so.
We still also have access to that well with almost 2 or 3 times a week.
So highly unlikely that we'd ever.
Pretty highly unlikely to get another road in there. With the,
There's just so many different, with the topography of the angle, the slope, the well on the on the south end, and then, it's pretty tight in there overall, so.
Perfect.
Talk about the arena tractor tool on the bottom.
we have, and Juan, you can help me with this. In our fleet, we have 2 old Massey Fergusons, a little Massey and then an older one, that are in need of some pretty serious repairs like clutches and transmissions. I am in need of a tractor for use in parks as well, to move wood chips and other things. I can use the backhoe if it's available, or the mini, well, I use the Bobcat, their Bobcat, if it's available. Sometimes that doesn't work out, but that would also double as a tractor that we could get rid of those old Massey Fergusons and use in the arena. So it's for the arena.
So is it a tractor or is it a tool?
It's a tractor with a bucket. I need a bucket. I'm looking 70 horses, about 70 horsepower.
And it's identified as arena for Parks and Rec, but it would be shared with Public Works and Recreation.
Juan was talking about maybe getting a batwing weeder for the side of the roads. We don't have anything we could use that on for weeding, so it's a multi-use. It's just not for the arena. Is the equipment that we use, like a Kubota or a Case tractor, and get rid of the 2 older ones that are aging out.
How often are they used now on a weekly basis?
In the summertime, we try to be, this is arena only, we're trying to be in the arena twice a week. That's a 30-minute job both times. And then in parks, I would estimate in summertime, maybe 1 use a week, maybe 1 every other week. Juan, I don't know how often.
We don't use it because it's not the right size. We actually have to get an attachment for the mini excavator so we can actually cut the weeds on the steep slopes. So that tractor, it's not safe to use with what we have. It's a 1966 Massey Ferguson. It's seen better.
Do we look to rent for these occasions? That doesn't seem like lots of use for that big of a number.
Yeah, I do rent. In fact, I rented in the last 2 weeks. I rented just a little one from Ace Rent. They're about between how much time you use, about $100 to $125, 4-hour minimum. And the last time I was under the minimum, and then they go up to $250 after 8 hours or whatever. But that doesn't help me with the arena and the arena tool and working the arena to keep that safe and keep the soil safe for horses, which was one of the major things discussed on our committee. Safety, new soil in the arena, and safety for riders, working that more frequently if possible.
What's the usage in the arena right now?
With individuals riding?
Yeah.
I was over in the pool for a couple hours today doing some training and working on sprinklers, and I saw in 2 hours probably 12 horses in the middle of the day. So we don't track that. We do have 2 clubs that use the arena weekly and twice a week. One is our program, then one is the Mount Tip Riders. They use it twice weekly. And then in the evening time, the lights are still on, just turn on and use. People are really good to turn them off, and we don't charge for that.
I know our youth group's coming tomorrow to use it, horse ride.
Right.
Thanks for letting us do that.
Yeah, so is it super busy? No, but there are several events, probably half a dozen events scheduled this year on an evening, and that's not including the clubs.
Now, if we do any of these committee ideas, does that change the type of tractor we would use?
Partially it does, because what we really need is just, well, what was requested was a little bit bigger arena tool, a little bit healthier for the ground, for the soil, and that requires more horsepower than we have in our tractors. So that's why I was saying we're looking about 70 horses to pull the Black Widow, to purchase the Black Widow. It's $3,500, I think, locally made arena tool.
So you're saying
A Redmond?
this new tractor would work for our current arena, or it would also work for any of these ideas that are being proposed?
Oh, absolutely.
Okay.
Yeah, it's
That's
the
the
start of what we talked about on the committee on making the soil better to it.
The life expectancy of this piece of equipment, we're looking at 12, 15 years, so early.
What about the other ones that's 1960s? I mean, they just don't make them like they used to?
Oh, no.
The new emission standards that we have, it's always trying to keep them on.
No doubt. Okay.
So if you can maybe get us a little more details on the breakdown on those, and obviously we haven't had a chance to look through these.
Okay. So for the city center improvements, there is 10,000 for painting upstairs here at the city hall.
That would be something I would look for you to email
Oh,
to us so we
okay.
can look at it. I would
Oh,
never
okay.
remember what
Yeah, I
you
can
told
do
us
that.
on that. That would be great. So we can go through it and actually take a look. I mean, when you add those up, that's a pretty big chunk of change.
Could you just quickly go through some of those, just,
Yeah,
For
so
the
for
city
the
center?
city center, there's a lot of painting, HVAC upgrades, gutter system upgrades, painting the roof, and tinting the public safety windows.
We'll send it again, but in our budget kickoff meeting, it was on the agenda, so just as a reminder, so,
Just as they've been adjusted and if that's changed at all.
yeah.
and it sounded like perhaps the windows had been added to look at the,
I would have to go look at our current list.
When you
This was
say
from
city
February.
center, is that this building and the public safety building? Is that?
Yes, so Alex gave me a list and it said city center, so that's what I put on there, and then I'm like, oh,
That
and
includes
then
public
there's,
safety.
and then there's a public safety one.
But it does not include our community
No.
center, which is on a separate slide for Parks and Rec's
Correct.
CapEx. Okay.
Speaking of city center, just driving into council tonight, I was noticing our two rental homes. There's a lot of weeds coming up, and is the maintenance required
We
by the tenants?
contract out 100% of the rental,
is that PMP?
it's TPM, Total Property Management. So they would be the ones, I can contact them and see, but I don't know what arrangements they even have for yard maintenance, if that's on the tenant or if it's on their company, so I
I've
would have
never
to look.
seen a bill for it, so I think it's on the
Yeah.
tenant.
I've known people that have rented there, and they've been the ones that have been
Okay.
required to keep that up.
Right.
Did you want us to look into that? Is that,
It was starting to look a little bit shabby, a lot of weeds coming up in the sidewalk as well as in the yard, and so it's kind of part of the city center complex, so just noticed, but,
okay.
you know.
Sell each of them for $1 million in this market.
So for the public works building improvements, that's 85,000. There's carpets and lighting and painting, interior and exterior, upgrading office windows, HVAC upgrades, radiant heaters to the outbuilding, and insulate outbuilding for the heaters.
How old's the public works building? 30, 40 years?
No, it was built in 98, I think, 99. Yeah, so 20 years.
It came after this building. right?
Yes. Yep.
They-
But just a couple of years,
Yeah,
so,
just,
yeah.
I mean, they were almost in tandem with each other when they left the little location on
Right.
Lakeview, right?
Yeah, but when I started, John Peterson had an office here in the building.
Right?
Yep. Let's see, is there anything else that you wanted some more detail on?
Keep going.
Okay. Okay, so for dedicated or restricted funds, the capital C road improvements, 1.65 million. So, I think the plan that was just approved for roads was, I want to say 1.2 million. And so, and where road projects tend to go over, split in fiscal years, I wanted to put a little bit extra in there to start the next projects. For park tax expenditures, there's $10,000 for vet hall improvements, and that is to repour the ADA pathway. And then $130,000 to replace the playgrounds and surface at Citizenship and Panorama Parks. Then for park impact fee expenditures, there's $30,000 for shade over the playground at Hollow Park, and $40,000 to get the power to the upper pavilion that's just right out here, and $20,000 for to engineer the plan for the arena.
So what are we doing with the power at the upper pavilion? Just putting lights on it?
Yeah, we want to bring power to it off the pole behind here for lights in the arena, and then part of that is to light this back sidewalk with some bollard lights. They keep this a little bit more lit for all the guards going home at 10 p.m. and walking the parking lots. And so there'd be light along this sidewalk and curved up to the pavilion.
Does that 40,000 include the light bollards and such?
Yeah, it does. We don't know what the drop will be from the power company off that yet, but we had Mark Watkins from MEW come and give us just a soft bid, and he figured that he'd be able to make it work for that price.
Okay, that makes more sense. I'm like, just to take power there seems like a lot, but that's good to know.
Well, and this is power for all of the Christmas light stuff too, right? Yeah, and we would have
plugs on the bollards with enough power to decorate what we wanted to do out there on that area.
This will power the octagon, or their little pavilion here.
Okay.
So can you clarify on the 20,000 for the arena area that there is no plan currently?
No.
This isn't necessarily an engineered plan, but some conceptual plans is what you're thinking.
We're looking for the committee, we're looking for maybe some, a conceptual plan of phases, not necessarily, drawings and construction kind of stuff, but we just want to get maybe an architect or a planner involved to see what the future might be or could be there and have a phase.
Is that still looking to be in a different location as well? I mean, out in the middle of the baseball fields?
I think that's where we'll probably end up directing it to go in a phased plan, so we can increase the parking lot where the current arena is. But we have no plans to do that or go forward with that, but that's kind of where the committee wanted to go.
So I'm trying to figure out why I know when we were talking about this before, that arena, it's a $3 million plus, probably $4 million now. I have no desire to spend 20,000 to tell me I'm going to have to spend 4 million, and I don't want to.
That's what we need to hear from you tonight. And so this is a little bit, we're kind of out of the cart before the horse.
We are a little bit. After talking to the committee, that's kind of where we're at.
If I could.
If you have no desire to do that, if the ultimate intent of the council is you have no desire to make a new arena improvement, we need to hear that as staff, because we have very unclear direction on that matter.
Go ahead.
Okay, sorry. Okay, this would be a repeat for me, because I did say it at our budget meeting there, and I don't want to give up the baseball fields to put the horse arena in there. So anyway, there you go.
Okay, no, that's very clear then.
So since we're on the discussion level of this particular item, while I have not been involved in this discussion with Carolyn and the committee regarding the horse arena, I have had other ideas and thoughts, and have expressed it with some staff members, and just high level thinking of things that we could do possibly with that park with a revamp, including the horse arena, because to me, I think the horse arena is a special, has special characteristics that are great for Lyndon and are part of our identity. And that would be, and I'm just shooting from the hip here, just since we're having a discussion. We don't need to shoot it down or pump it up, whatever you want to say. But my thoughts have been, is perhaps in conjunction with some of our centennial celebrations in 2024, that we take and maybe do some revamping of our city park, maybe take our horse arena, slide it down, use it for a multi-use where we can maybe hold a concert or some other activities that would help with all of our citizens. And again, I've got a file at home with it. I wasn't prepared to make any discussion, but I would like to maybe see this money being earmarked to see if we can use that $20,000 or some portion of it to see what we might be able to do to revamp that beautiful city park in a way that would be great to kick it off for a celebration in 2024 for our 100th year, and take and make our horse arena a lovely place, but also make it a multi-use place, not just for horse arenas. So it wouldn't be dovetailing exactly what the committee is looking for perhaps, but maybe it's something that we could do a hybrid with. So again, I haven't discussed this even for a nanosecond with Carolyn, but
Yeah, I'd love to share a little more. In fact, identifying this as just arena really doesn't quite paint the picture. And I think with Heath, one of the things that the committee would like to do is maybe have an opportunity to present some of the ideas, because it would not just be for horses. That's the whole point of any investment at all. It would have a multi-purpose use. It would be something with a rooftop. You could have bridal shows there. You could have the car show, have shaded area in there. You could have other type of sporting events or cultural events. So to call it just, think of the word horse arena, think of it as a covered type multi-purpose facility is really, I think, the direction things are going. And one of the things it was discussed about baseball is, yes, that is a worthy interest as well. Unfortunately, the interest in baseball in Lyndon City in particular for our own recreation leagues has not had signups and a healthy participation. Heath could speak to that. We haven't even ran a league because there's so few signups.
Just so the arena is not for horses, those fields are not just for baseball either, I would say.
Yeah.
Good open fields.
Well,
anyway.
That's great.
And I'm okay with the horse arena being upgraded and some improvements there.
Well, one of the things that's been discussed, and I'd love to put this maybe on a future agenda item, and if we need to table, budget stuff right now because you're not comfortable with, that's fine, because it's, again, like Adam said, maybe a little bit the cart before the horse, because I think the committee needs to be able to present something to share, kind of the pitch, I guess, all around. But
would be helpful.
There's really no other locations that we could, it's probably much more feasible to do a multi-purpose, multi-use building like this as part of our city center complex versus doing it in another park across town. We do have several places where baseball fields are dedicated space already, but this space is kind of one of a kind. So, that was discussed, like, would we want to put it somewhere else in the city? And I think we ended up coming back here each time. And those are things that would be great to share with council, discuss with council, maybe put together something in the near future, Heath. So we could share all that information and all the research that's been done.
Yeah, to quote Van, you got to have good information to make good decisions. I don't know that we have enough information yet, so I agree with Carolyn. Maybe we table the $20,000 for now, knowing that we can make a budget amendment at any time. And I'd like to know what it is we're looking at down there. I don't know that my appetite is in the millions and millions of dollars. I do love the horse arena. Like I said, we're taking a youth group of about 40 kids there tomorrow night. So love to get some more information on that, and let's maybe hold off on.
One of the things that's really quite nice is we have a resident who is a professional grant writer. He actually helped us attain the grant that, helped with the pickleball courts out on our other parks. And so he writes the grants basically for free, and it's just based on a fee if a grant is awarded. And there's been some very nice opportunities we are hopeful about that could help with a project like this as well, so.
Look forward to hearing more about it.
All right, so then I will hold off on that 20,000, and like Jake said, we could do a budget amendment after there's a presentation, if that's needed. Okay. So everything else, does that look okay?
Yeah, unless the road's going through the vet hall, then it's not okay, but.
I think Keith spoke to that, probably that's not gonna happen, so.
Okay.
You know, on a broader topic, and I don't mean to kind of throw a grenade on this discussion, but recently I've had several residents approach me about, is there a rec center in the future at Lindon? So I don't, you know.
Certainly it ties together if that became the case.
Yeah, and so I think we need to maybe make that potentially part of the discussion, not that we have to solve that, but is that in our vision at some point in time? And if so, what is the timing of that? And I know they're not cheap, so I'm not suggesting that that's the direction we go,
Yeah,
but.
you go to single digit for something like this to double digit, possibly triple digit.
You're
Yeah.
probably
Millions.
addressing more residents by
Yeah.
doing that. That's the point, I think. So, anyway, just throwing it out there. Okay, keep going.
All right, so we'll move on to the water fund. There's $45,000 for an enclosed tool trailer. So this is equipment being requested, capital equipment being requested by Public Works for the water fund. So totaling $45,000. It's a enclosed tool trailer, mini X-plate compactor attachment, water leak detection equipment, and trench box alternatives. And then $490,000 for improvements to secondary water system. And that is a summary of a couple of things. Let me pull up Juan's list. So $100,000 for pumps for skid zone 1 at 1200 East. $55,000 for screens to filter the water before it goes into the system. And $5,000 to rebuild PRV. That's pressure reducing valves. And then $300,000 for Fieldstone to connect the PI, to start the connection to Provo River Aquatic.
How much was the Fieldstone PI connection?
$300,000.
Thank you.
Yep, so that's the majority of it. And then on that $2.4 million for culinary water projects, a big part of that $1.6 million is the Canal Drive water line replacement. And then $335,000 for water line on Center Street from Main to 200 East. And then about $360,000 for generators for the wells, for wells 1 and 3, and then also for the 835 East booster pumps. And then there's some other miscellaneous motors, meters, valves, and pipe work, and heaters for the wells. Do you have any questions on those? And again, I can send these lists.
And these numbers are all rolling up from the departments. I mean,
The
that's.
department heads.
Yeah, which they've vetted it, and that's what their
Yep.
request is, what they feel is appropriate to deliver the services and what we're doing, so.
Yep.
And I'm sure our council will go through it very nicely, and if there's something that jumps out at them, we'll have that discussion, so. Good.
Do we get to the rec fund yet? Did you already read that
Nope.
one? Okay,
I'm,
sorry.
yeah, I know.
I was making sure I hadn't missed my opportunity.
Nope. So now sewer fund, 101,000 for the generator, truck, and crane. And then 100,000 for Lyndon Orem flow meter replacement. 40,000 for sewer pump maintenance. 97,500 to upgrade lift station number 4, and 210,000 for infiltration elimination. That's basically sealing up pipes so the stormwater doesn't get in.
So we're not charged for water that really isn't.
Right, that doesn't, need to go through the sewer.
Juan, could you speak to the Lindon Orem flow meter?
Yes, so that flow meter, we pay Orem, depending on what goes through there. What happens is that we have a 36-inch pipe that conveys the sewage gravity to the next lift station that it's down in Geneva Road about 800 north. What happens is we have this 36-inch pipe, and then it has to go through a flume that is about this wide. So what's happening there, the water is coming in through there, slows down, and then acts as a clarifier, which drops all the solids in the pipe, creating hydrogen sulfide gases, and it's starting to deteriorate the meter, the pipe, and the manholes upstream, making them so they're rotting and caving in. So I had a conversation with Orem. They agreed that to remove that measuring device to go to an open pipe flow meter, and that way we'll get
Better readings, yeah.
more accurate reading. We will have be able to clean that pipe so we don't have those solids deteriorating our infrastructure.
For better or worse on those new readings, huh?
I mean, it's been a long, ongoing.
It's better. It's about $38,000 to $40,000 a month that we pay Orem for the sewer treatment, and that is all read through that meter.
And we want to be accurate for certain, no matter which way it is.
And it's been up and, I mean, it's been a debate.
It fluctuates.
Forever.
It's down to 32,000 some months, but the infiltration elimination is a key aspect as well. So
The good news is that as I've been tracking the flows from 3 years back.
What a job. I mean,
We've actually have, even with the population growing, our flow has stayed flat, meaning that we're catching more infiltration.
yeah.
Better job paying for this water.
At one time, we were limited by Orem because our numbers were so high that the capacity to deal with it was, is that, I mean, I remember that.
Yeah,
That's
To that section.
negotiated and then increased our
We ended up getting more
our
shares.
higher level,
We
yeah.
went from 1.2 million to 1.6, but right now we're hovering at about underneath 1 million gallons.
Now, keep it there. Whatever you need to do, keep it there.
Slow the flow, even there.
Slow the flow, right? Yeah,
Everywhere.
yeah,
In and out.
yeah.
So any other questions on sewer fund?
Thank you for that one.
So for the stormwater fund, 600,000 for stormwater piping. That is, can you say that again?
Yeah, that's for a master plan deficiency on the main ditch. So as you know, we've had some flooding happening on the main ditch going through town. So we've identified a drainage that it goes right from Gilman Lane up to the main ditch. And the object is to split the flow right there and send some of the water going down main ditch and then some going to Gilman and alleviating, spikes in the flow. It's a straighter shot. Instead of coming down through Lakeview, coming back and around, we decided to modify or change the plan and then use it across the lots on the houses that kind of make a bend up there at Gilman. There's an elk farm right there.
Denny Farms.
Is that Denny's?
I think so. Is that Denny's?
Denny
Yeah.
Farmer.
Mhm.
So we're pursuing that option with, I'm working on the deficiencies and also get more capacity. We'll
we've been working with them for how many years now?
I've been told it's been a few years, but we have a good relationship with the city engineer over there, and they got a grant.
So they're actually,
They're making some progress.
We're making progress, we're still.
good, we'll keep on it. All right, thank you.
All right, now for the recreation fund. In the Aquatic Center, $288,000 for the slide, and so total, the slide will be $400,000. But they're doing prep work right now, and so estimating about $111,000 in this current fiscal year, and the remainder $289,000 in next fiscal year. And then $75,000 for Aquatic Center pump and boiler maintenance and replacement.
How long, it seems like we do this every year.
We do, because we're cycling through multiple boilers and pumps, right?
Yeah, we put in 2 new pumps, or boilers this year. We've got, no, 3, 1, 2. We've got 2 more that need to be cycled through, and then pumps. I don't think he plans on spending all of that. This is Alex on pulling them every year, but if we needed to have replacements, that's what it's gonna take. So yeah, we've got a nice cycle going now for motors and pumps. There should be a time in between when we don't spend, but it's better to have it instead of closing.
How much of the system is original?
In that area, all of the boilers that we replaced this year were original. And the pumps, the big pump has been done twice, or just once, motor 2 or 3 times. And some of those other pumps on the riverside are all original.
Okay.
So all 8 of those are original. Then there's the littler, smaller pumps that pump the hot tub and stuff, but those big circulation pumps, all of those are original at 11 years, 10 years over in the island.
And the anticipation of, on any of the new ones, the longevity?
Better. Yeah, the pumps that were put in here, the Payco pumps that were put in, the company went out of business, and it was the lowest thing that they could bid.
Okay.
Some of the new pumps are better, but we haven't had one in long enough to really test it, except for what they've done in sewer. They use similar sewer pumps, and they say that they're better, always getting a little better.
Thank you.
Yep. $30,000 for Aquatic Center women's room floor.
What's that gonna be made out of, do you know?
Yeah, we poured last year, we did an epoxy floor on the men's, so it'll be epoxy in the women's, and then the change room, and that'll be done, and we love it, a lot better on the feet, a lot easier to clean.
And why did we do the men's first?
They
I
don't
think
use
it
it
was
as
because
often.
we weren't sure we could keep the ladies out of there for that much time, so.
Well, I'm glad that we're getting it done. That's good.
They had to make sure it was right before they did ours.
That's right. If we're gonna err with the men, right? Yeah.
And then $10,000 for the Aquatic Center landscape improvements. And then what Jake's been waiting for, $195,000 for community center upgrades and improvements. And $60,000 of that is the entrance on the
South side.
southeast side. So the gym's entrance side, we've got a grant for $30,000 to redo that with a vestibule and ADA access.
So is that 195 netted of that 30,000?
No, because the $30,000 will come in as a revenue, so that's the entire expense.
Okay. So really, it's 165 because
So-
we'll get that revenue? Or no? Am I understanding?
Net would be 165.
Just always good with the council to discuss what our plans are with this community center. Very old building. There's been times in the past where we've considered selling it. Had some interest from the school district at one point. That's a big price tag. If it's a building we don't have long-term plans for it. You know, as Mayor said, we had plans for a rec center. It's just, it is an old building. I get that. It is a building that's used. We use it a ton. I know Heath uses it a lot. I know my family seems to be there quite a bit. So,
Any interest, Adam, from school district, or otherwise? That's been
No, in
several
fact,
years
their
now.
Lyndon Elementary fell fairly low on their priority. If you recall, on the last round of bonds that were approved by the public, it was not included as one of the buildings to be rebuilt. And so,
They've changed their focus.
yeah, I have not heard any interest in the last couple of years.
So, yeah, speaking with some of the Alpine board members, they said, you know, of course, the mass growth is in the north end of the county. That's a lot of their focus. And then within Orem, north end of Orem, they're seeing a decrease, so they're wanting to more redistribute pupils and where they go versus new buildings or big upgrades to buildings for now.
Plans that I'm aware of to replace or rebuild this building over there for the next 5 or 10 years that unless you're telling me otherwise, but I haven't heard anything different.
Seems like back in 15, 16, there had been a thought of them doing that, and
I was meaning us with the community
Oh,
center.
with the community center, but I know that the school district was talking heavily
They
back
were.
in the 15 and 16 years.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's one I
Does
think
that-
we'd like to look at further on that particular one.
Okay.
It's okay to budget for it, but before we did something, we'd like to see exactly what was happening.
Yeah, so I'll just,
Decide if it was
we
worth
will
it.
send this to you, but just to rattle it off for the public that's here, we had money in there for some of the gymnasium renovations, lighting and electrical upgrades throughout. It still has an old steam boiler that's in there, that's a pain. And so some boiler upgrades and maintenance. He's got money for windows replacements and treatments on some of the areas around the windows, gutter system upgrades. He's got HVAC upgrades, the vestibules that we mentioned on the entrance, and then some electricity running out to there's a little shed that's out in that back building that's used. It does not have power, and so running power to that building. So.
And there's also 50,000 for parking lot lean-to.
Yeah, what is that?
I'm sorry, I spoke out of turn. Is that okay?
Yeah, what is that?
Sorry, there's.
Well, you know what it is, right?
Yeah,
So
Alice is
tell
looking
us.
for, next to that building, another outbuilding to keep just,
that's
it's
right.
it's not a shed, but it's be an outbuilding for him to keep facility things in, a workplace with hence the power, electricity, and then maybe some covered.
Covered parking is
some
basically what we're looking at.
Parking for some of the equipment. that
This
we
is
use.
next to the shed that's in the west side of the parking
Yeah,
lot. Is
so
that
it's
correct? Over by,
directly to the south of that.
yes.
So right now we've got, I do remember him mentioning this, I apologize. We've got several pieces of equipment that's just sitting out in parks, in the outdoors, uncovered. And it would be beneficial to extend the life of that if we can get those under a roof, so he's looking at
Having
that.
prioritized what he thought were the most important and pressing and
Okay, we will.
best bang for the buck.
Yeah, and comment to what Jake said, I know that we, over the years, have just tried to minimally, do things there at the community center, thinking, is there going to be a collaboration with Alpine School District? My feeling would be that it's a historic building. It's part of Lyndon's heritage. There was tremendous sacrifice by previous generations to build that building, and I think it's a piece of us. I would like to see. I would not want to see that building, the land sold or, go away. I think it's a tremendous gathering place for our community, and so I think Heath has done a great job with getting grants to, upgrade things. Employees, doing things extra that they didn't get paid to do or weren't asked to do to keep it beautiful and improve it. And so I think, allocating some budget there to continue to do some of these basic things would be warranted. So
With Carolyn, to me, it's an iconic building, has a lot of sentimental value to our citizens, past and present, and I'd like to see it have a future here. So I realize it's got seismic issues and a lot of other things, but I'd like to see a way to incorporate it somehow and keeping it within our city campus.
I agree. I think it's a wonderful building. Like I said, I find myself there a lot. I think we need to, I hate to make improvements if
the game plan is to completely renovate it. Like you said, the seismic issues. I just wish we had a game plan with it. I hate throwing $200,000 at something that we have zero game plan for. Is it to hold off and wait for a collaboration with Alpine City? Is it for a major renovation where we include some rec center aspects and I don't know. It's just a lot of money to spend where we maybe don't know our end goal, what that could be. So, you know, and anyways, it's a pretty big price tag for something. And
I think Alex has been approaching it with the end goal of, we're gonna make this building last for another 20 to 50 years. I mean,
I like
that's
and that
what
might
we're
be-
trying to do.
And that
so-
might be our plan. And if that's our plan, then
Then yes, that's a different approach than on what we start thinking. Budgeting
Different?
wise. No, budgeting wise.
I was
I'm
gonna say,
saying yes, no, no.
I've never heard anything different other than we wanna keep the building, but.
Yeah.
Right.
I think the bigger conversation, to Jake's point and to Carolyn and Randy's point in Vans, I think it is a historical building. I think it is a part of what Lyndon is, and I think we need to maintain that to a level that people are very happy with it. They can utilize it. There is a lot of use. I mean, I'm amazed how much use we get out of that old brick building. I mean, it's pretty amazing, the number of people that come through that. So I think, not speaking for everyone on the council, but I think short-term and mid-term and maybe even long-term, you know, that building's here to stay. I think the only way that would probably change is if the council made a decision that, along with the school district, if they felt like they wanted to participate with us to do some kind of a updated rec multi-use kind of facility, and I don't know if that's ever going to happen. But, I mean, that's what other option. I mean, we're not going to tear it down. And I don't know what it'd cost to actually make it earthquake-proof. That scares me.
This is not even coming close to that. This is
Well, I know it's not, but I'm just saying that'd be, if everyone says someday there's going to be an earthquake. It's
Yeah, so for me, it would be, okay, if we're gonna keep this for 30 years, what's our budget plan to make it so it's doable for that?
Have a game plan, yeah.
And then if it starts with a $3 million seismic upgrade, that gets our attention rather abruptly.
Yeah.
But if there's a plan to get it there where we're doing this for the first 3-4 years and then we're set for the next 20 or whatever, that would be helpful.
Okay.
Excuse me, helpful for me to see the vision.
Okay.
So have him dream a little bit, and then maybe we can match that with numbers. Maybe he's already dreamed, I don't know.
I think he's there, and so the instruction I've given him is that we've had such a good financial year. I'm looking at this as a one-time money type of year, and so is telling him, get the projects done that you feel are necessary and needed, and let's include those. But I'll have him prioritize those and look at a longer-term plan.
Yeah, and what he thinks we need in the next few years.
What year did we acquire that? Was it in 2010? What year did we acquire that from the church?
Yeah, that's about when it was,
About
because we were
2010?
talking about it right as I was leaving, and the church was very amenable to providing it. It was a no-brainer kind of a decision, so.
And then Mazer used it for a year before we took it over. And so, but we've made, you've seen it,
Wonderful.
we've made periodic
Lots of
cosmetic
improvements in it.
updates, but yeah.
Yeah, if you're in there late at nights cooking turkey, you hear noises that kind of startle you just a little bit.
And it's not the turkey?
It's not the turkey.
That boiler is such a fun place, and it's, raised my children in that church.
That I think is important to note while we have the community watching online or those that are here is we will set aside the maximum amount we're allowed to by state law statute in a rainy day fund based on the good year we've had. So we want to be looking to the future as well and not just expend the good year
I think
thing that we've had.
based on the proposal, we're quite a bit below the max this year, right?
Correct. So we're above our old max.
Versus
So we're
above our
kind
old
of,
max,
we're-
but with the new legislation.
right, with the new legislation, so we're not going right to that 35%. We're growing it. So ending the general fund, proposed ending would be 27.8% of revenues. And so that's what's set by the state is, it was 25% of revenues and now it's 35%.
So it's increasing, yeah.
It is increasing, yes.
Yeah, keep in mind, that's the highest we will ever have had in that fund. And so, because it was capped previously at 25%.
Okay, just for a fun question, how much are we paying on the public safety building? 0.
It's paid, yes. Okay. So this is how we're ending the fiscal year. This is a summary of the beginning fund balances and of each fund, and how they're being used, transferred, and then what the proposed ending balances are of the funds. And I just want to point out that since last year's budget, we've added 2 funds. One is a special revenue fund for coronavirus relief revenue that we're getting. So we got the CARES funding and, sorry, it's this right here. We got the CARES Act funding in 2020, and then used it this year. It was all supposed to be used by December of 2020. And then we are projected to get another $1.2 million through the American Rescue Plan. And that is an estimate at this point, and but it should be coming, our allotment, our first tranche should be coming to the state of Utah within 60 days, and then the state has 30 days to get it to us, so 90 days from March 11th. That would be May 11th. That's the 60 days, so June 11th. Yeah, and so
This is not coming through the county like it did last time. It's coming
Correct.
straight from the state.
Right.
What regulations will there be on that?
Still figuring things out. One of the things that I've heard is they're encouraging that be used on infrastructure like roads or water.
Sweet, you're singing my song.
Yep.
Well, we just throw it all in
And of
roads.
course, any COVID, like PPEs, that kind of stuff would also be covered. They're also saying that this could also be used to replace lost revenues, where the general fund didn't really see any lost revenues, but the recreation fund did. Not to that tune, but these are just different things. So I've just set up the fund and anticipated the money coming in, the first tranche at the end of this fiscal year, and then the second tranche is 1 year later, not any earlier than 1 year later after the first. So
I would love it in roads, and Juan would be ready to spend it, I hope, to advance the plan a little quicker.
Yeah, one of my concerns with that too is I think we need to look at, I know Congressman Curtis said that one of the things that the Republicans were disappointed about was that they put in the legislation that no one can give tax breaks based on receiving these funds. And the reality is this is not free money that we should get excited about. This is debt. This is debt on our children. This is going to come back to hurt us via inflation, via taxes that are going to be put on us in the future. And so I think we have a great team here to look at how can we wisely use this towards infrastructure. I would like to keep a focus that whatever we spend this on, it's with the effort to create situations where then we don't have to raise taxes and fees on our own residents in the future. It goes towards wise expenditures. It's not something to celebrate in my mind, but I think we just need to be careful with that.
Yep, and we will be reporting to U.S. Treasury on how those funds are spent, and they need to be spent by December 2024.
The challenge, and we all have worthy I guess, areas where that money can be spent, but I think, as Governor Cox made mention at the league meetings, this really is money for the future for our children, because they're the ones that are gonna have to be paying the debt. And in his recommendation, which I think what I'm hearing is, let's spend it wisely, so it just doesn't happen for today. It's an investment for tomorrow that's gonna benefit the next generation. So, and I think roads and sewer and water and
Right.
those are all very
Exactly.
good
Where other
things.
cities are looking at charging road fees
Yeah.
to pay for their road infrastructure. I would love to see us not have to charge a road fee ever to Lyndon residents if we could utilize funds in that manner. So
It's not free money.
it's not free.
We'll get more direction in May is when we've heard that that's supposed to come out from the federal government. And so to Carolyn's comment, something that's crossed my mind is looking for ways that we can leverage that one-time money. Can it be a match for grants? So I'm researching
Great.
some of that. And so maybe down the road, some things that it may not be asphalt, but it's other public improvements that we're facing with stormwater piping or secondary meters that we think the state's going to require us to put in. I mean, there's those kinds of things that we'll bring a list to you. And so we've got, thankfully, we've got a few years to work on this, expending this money versus the last chunk that we got and had 6 months to spend it. So
And can you add us to the list of the criteria and all the minutia that's in these, in the information that's coming to you on how this has to be dispersed?
yeah, we will let you know. As soon as we get it, we'll
Yes.
forward it on. Yeah.
Just making sure there's no anchors on that will tie us to future potential problems, so.
With the receipt of the money, is that? Oh,
Strings.
Yeah.
You know, I'm very confident that this council and staff for Lyndon City will be very prudent and wise on how we move forward with this. I've been with you a while, and I trust that you're not going to change how you allocate monies and spend it. You've done a very, very good job. So collectively, we'll plan for the future and do it in a way that is most appropriate. So thank you.
One thought I had is utility rates continue to go up, and part of the reason they go up is because we anticipate future capital expenditures. Perhaps this money could subsidize that in a way so that those utility rates don't have to go up. I hear that quite a bit from residents. I came
Folks
across.
on budget, like retired.
Yes,
folks,
people
yeah.
on fixed income, the widow's mite, like the governor said. Our utility rates have gone up year after year without fail because of inflation, because of those costs. And I know that we've tried hard to link that so that it's a net zero. But we're so blessed as a city with such a strong sales tax base, other great revenue streams, that I don't know that we can't subsidize it. I don't know. It's just a thought that's crossed my mind as I came across it.
I'm on the same page with you, because just looking at like the 6% garbage increase for the next year, why would we need to do that much if we have such a generous revenue? I'd like to look at things like that for sure, because 6% is a lot in 1 year. And yes, you could say, well, Republic has raised their rates on us and this and that, but let's look at the whole picture and see how we can minimize increasing rates and taxes and fees when we have a good year like this.
Great discussion. Let's see that report when it comes. And
Like I
use it
said,
to
this
help.
council will be on top of it. I love it. Thank you.
Okay. So, as I mentioned earlier, the proposed budget will be presented in 2 weeks here at City Council. The final budget will be June 21st. And like Adam mentioned before, we're trying to use a lot of this increased sales tax and treat it as like one-time money on these expenditures. Also, I will be doing the fraud risk assessment, and as part of that, the council members have been asked to do fraud training through the state auditor's office, and I haven't checked to see if everyone's done that yet. So if you haven't, please get that done.
I think we all did it, didn't we, Adam?
Okay.
Did you get all of ours?
I have received all of yours, so
Awesome.
everybody's done, including
Awesome.
you and I, so.
Yep,
Oh, yeah, you did.
Great.
Didn't you, just in case?
okay, so,
Remember, because I do it for so many different organizations, it's
got you, so
ridiculous. But I mean,
I
it's
referred
good,
to
it's good. But thank you for the reminder.
I think I received yours.
I
Mayor.
think so too,
Okay.
but
I'll double
we'll
check.
check to make sure.
I remember him saying he sent it in.
okay, so we did not review the amended budget. So it was the first part of the budget papers. Whoops. A lot of it is increased revenue from sales tax, from building permits, so impact fees. And so I don't know if you've had a chance to look over all of these, if you have any questions on this amended budget.
Great numbers. Ben, I'm sure you saw those Class C road funds, you know,
Yeah, that's
30% higher than we had thought. That's great.
Yeah.
Park tax at an all-time high. Who'd have thought?
955 for road funds?
For the revenue?
Yeah, that was on one of the
Sorry.
re-
Let me- Sorry.
that was in one of your first slides tonight, I thought. Not on this one.
Oh, so not the budget amendment, but the 2022?
Can you jump back to the presentation she was just doing? I don't know who's running the computer.
It's on page 29 is what he's referring to, just that the amended numbers at 935 on Class C revenues.
Or are you talking about this one?
Pop up here on this one, see if
Okay.
I remember it right.
That's on the email she sent us.
Yeah, go to the revenues. The graph,
Okay.
pie chart. Gas tax, 955,000.
So that would include the transit tax as well. Yep, that's,
Class C.
so I think it's about 50/50.
'Cause I was thinking that's a huge jump from what we've normally got out of Class
Right,
C.
because this transit tax is still growing for us.
Jake was talking about.
As it's getting started and going, and it's sales tax based, so as sales increase, so does that tax. Unlike the gas tax, the road fund allotment, it's based on gas sales, which are kind of declining with more electric cars. So any questions? Budget amendment or the tentative budget?
Can you quickly, jump over to that next tab to the right on the 2019-25? Just to review, we emailed this earlier today, but for the public that's here, if you can scroll up to the first page there. I don't think I can do that. You've got the mouse, thanks. So this is just a quick reflection of the last two fiscal years, 2019-20. We spent about 1.2 million on road improvements in Lyndon. That includes the crack seal and then the maintenance projects that we had done. And then go to that next slide. In the 2020-21, this current fiscal year, we've expended almost 2 million on projects on these various streets. And then go ahead to this next. So then you've already awarded here just a month or two ago this project for this coming fall, which will be in the 2021-22 fiscal year of about 1.4 million. And then projecting and looking out, his engineering staff has put together, if you go ahead to this next one, an additional several years to get us to 2025 and 26 with this next fiscal year of 1.2 million, then following, let's see, can you zoom out just a tiny bit? I'm missing the total on the bottom of that. There we go. 2 million then for each year thereafter. I do want to highlight this specific year. So this is Canal Drive in red, and red being a failed roadway or that's being completely reconstructed. You can see the reconstruct for that red year is about 1.3 million. Reconstruction of roads is substantially more expensive, and it limits our ability to invest money into maintaining good roads in other areas of town. And so what they've tried to do is spread out those reconstruction projects over a series of years. So then if you go to the next, they've just got a small section of red reconstruction on 200 South, and then in subsequent years projected then on the next page. There we go. Go one more page. Some work on 135 West, and then I think that's 725 North. 600 North, thank you. And then the last page there, this would show citywide all of those planned improvements between 2019 and 2025 fiscal years. And so looking at this, nearly every street in the city would have some sort of maintenance monies invested on it, and whether it being crack seal or complete rebuilds. So kudos to Juan and the engineers for trying to put this together, and their intent is then to keep a rolling 5-year window as we move forward. Right now, with the revenues that we're receiving and some of the debts that we've been able to pay off and move some of that general fund money around, we anticipate being able to hit those targets for up to that 2 million on those last couple of years. And so that is our hope. And Carolyn, if we can continue down this path, again, that knocking on wood, that sales tax revenues continue in a positive fashion, that we shouldn't need to approach a road fund or a road fee. But
yeah, we've all been very hesitant there, and this is I love this, well done, especially that last slide that shows everything combined for all those previous years. You know, as we do talk about one-time monies and transfer that into construction costs that are just as volatile as can be, right now asphalt is very steady. It's one of the few things that is, so good time to look at putting money there.
It's not concrete. Asphalt is where it's at right now, right?
Different story. Asphalt's pretty cut.
Right.
Last year's prices are still good for this year.
Right.
Who knows what next year may bring, so.
anything else, Kristen, on?
No.
So we were just in a work session through all of this. This was just discussion only, so we still need to then go into our next agenda item, which is to adopt these tentative budgets.
Yes,
Yes,
right.
public hearing, thank you.
I'll motion to go into a public hearing.
Second.
By Jake, a second by Randy. All in favor?
Aye.
We're now in a public hearing. Now, we need to, based upon discussion, I guess we need to adopt a preliminary budget. Is that correct?
Take public comment first, yeah.
Okay, public comment.
Thoughts, anyone?
We bored you to tears, or, all right.
I'll motion to close the public hearing.
Second.
Motion by Jake and a second by Van to close the public hearing. All in favor?
Aye.
That's unanimous. Now,
Can I ask a question?
Please. Oh,
I may have
yes.
wanted to ask this before, but I know there was a comment about perhaps opening a new line for a potential centennial celebration is that something we tried to talk about at budget kickoff, but we didn't get there? Is that something that
that's right.
we're available to do?
What budget line?
A budget line, sorry.
I was
Sorry.
thinking of a, never
Yes,
mind.
a budget line, Kristen. I don't know if Heath talked to you about that at all. I talked to him about it, but I don't know if I needed to talk to you about that, if we can open a new line potentially for a fund to start off with, for our centennial celebration in '24. And I apologize, I didn't talk about this during our discussion.
I can do that, yeah. And how much, did you want to start spending money before our centennial?
Again, I should have brought this up a little earlier. If it's okay, Mayor, can we discuss that for just a moment, or is that inappropriate?
I don't know, you tell me.
It's totally appropriate.
Yeah, it's fine.
Just before we do the adoption. We talked about maybe doing this. We didn't get our budget retreat ran long. We talked about talking about this at a later date. Is it possible that we open a small fund in order to start kicking this off? Something that would be used for perhaps logoing. I know we've talked about perhaps doing some of the projects that have meant something to us and then funneling them all towards '24. Perhaps a little update on our logo, just some things that.
Are you suggesting this would be a general fund expenditure?
I'm assuming so, but I'm not sure how that works.
Could we use park funds where it's that far out? We couldn't, right?
No, because it's for facilities.
Yeah, you can't use it for programming.
Right. And so it's just some sort of a small fund, if you're comfortable with
You're
that.
thinking
So
of
as-
starting to set aside monies or start some projects that we could then say.
Possibly, and
Okay.
possibly something that would be very tailored to our '24.
That
For our
would culminate, that would
Right.
work towards that, yeah.
Right, if there's something that we need to acquire right off, I don't know, help me with some verbiage here, Heath.
I think we're just looking for something in case something comes up.
An opportunity.
We talked, Carolyn and I talked a little bit about maybe
That'd be
starting
Randy.
development of a special logo for that year, and I don't.
Yeah.
That's what I said. You guys heard me.
It's Randy's idea.
This
Great
one, I'll
idea,
move it over
Randy.
here.
Got to give credit where credit's due.
And we talked about that a little bit, so I don't have any plans to make expenditures until we start working on it, and we do, so I'm wondering.
Even if it's just a small fund, just to say that we're actually working on it, but go ahead, I'm sorry, Mayor.
No, I was just thinking, I mean, I wouldn't be, not that we can't discuss it, we don't really have a good idea of what that number would be, or.
So, question.
Yeah.
Historical Commission. Pleasant Grove City has a line item of $5,000 per year for the Historical Commission. Wouldn't this be appropriate? But could this fall into that category?
I think the thought is doing this outside the Historical Commission, have them help with that, but this would be a different commission or committee, some sort of a
Okay.
body that would work outside of the commission, of the Historical Commission.
Okay.
Couple $1,000 to put in there and start a committee, is that kind of what you're thinking? Is that?
Yes,
Well, it's,
not funds that can
I'm
be
just-
just shot on supply, I mean, you know.
it's more of a placeholder to get it started, and then we start
Yeah, we
talking
have-
about what is the vision, and what could be the key things, so not just this year, but next year and the next year, allocate
And-
monies to
Right.
To
complete
use to
that
help create
vision.
a plan.
Yeah.
Okay, and my notes, this is kind of along the lines, Mike Venturi had sent out, Councilmember Venturi had sent out an email and asked about signage, entryway signage, and my notes from our budget kickoff was that may coincide with that centennial, but that we would explore it. So we do have 3 complete fiscal years before that would occur, and so we've got plenty of time, but.
But part of it, I think,
that
would
sound
be
right?
having that conversation to kind of identify those key, whatever it
It
is.
creates that energy that we need in
Yeah.
order to have some sort of a wonderful, it's not just a Lyndon Day celebration. This is something that is being envisioned more of at least a 9-month celebration or 8-month leading up to Lyndon Days. Because I think our anniversary is
He's just
March.
lost his, he's 9 months. Every day for the 365 days, you're gonna be celebrating, dude.
100 years is a big deal.
That is good. No, and it may be that. I mean, you could actually have each week, maybe there's a focus, and I don't know.
I think
We
there's
can
some-
brainstorm.
Yes, and that's the thing, and getting together with committee members that we'll have to establish as a,
Each council member will take a week, Heath, just to relieve you a little bit of anxiety. No, I think that's great.
Great idea.
I think we're good, aren't we?
thank you.
Jake, you good?
It moves us towards
Yeah.
thinking.
1,000.
Okay, so, so if it's not spent, it just goes back into the general fund. Okay, that's,
It goes wherever we direct it, based upon what we're
I
wanting to
mean,
do.
it can be reallocated another year, you know,
If
like
it could
next
roll
year.
over, whatever
Right.
is appropriate,
It wouldn't automatically roll over, our general fund,
doesn't do that.
yeah, so, I mean, it's just in the fund
just-
balance, and so we can appropriate it
Right.
in the next fiscal year.
Right.
So,
And maybe
So
we'll
could-
double down the next year, or maybe we'll
right,
quadruple
as it gets
down.
closer,
Yeah.
I would think it would,
I think it's hard to start a party without a party fund of some kind.
yeah, and
A celebration.
fund some planners.
Right. And this
Party
would not be
planners.
for party planners. This would be for us having.
Tangible, physical,
Yes.
iconic things in the community.
Okay.
Keeps it in mind too. It's not out of sight, out of mind. We've got a number there. We're gonna see it every time we see that fund balance.
Yep.
Let's do
I
it.
like that. Thank you very much.
Anything else, Randy?
No, thank you.
I'm ready to make a motion, Mayor.
For it, Jake.
Let these people get to the item they're excited for. I'll make a motion to approve Resolution 2021-10-R adopting the Lyndon City fiscal year 2021 budget and fee schedule amendments and the fiscal year 2022 tentative budget as presented, knowing that she will go back and make some changes and bring it forward with the budget we'll see on May
Right,
17th.
so the tentative budget will pass as presented.
As presented,
and
knowing
then
that you'll bring forward the changes that we've
post-
discussed today.
The proposed budget will have the changes.
Yep.
Second.
We have a motion by Jake, a second by Van. Any further discussion? Go ahead and call for the vote. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? I believe that's unanimous. Thank you. Now we need to recess to the Lindon City Redevelopment Agency meeting. Someone want to make that motion?
So motion.
Thank you, Randy. Is there a second?
That's pretty easy peasy.
I'll second.
Thank you, Jake. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
You're now in
going
the
down.
Redevelopment
They've
Agency
got-
meeting.
Right.
We've got it after the RDA
I know that,
agenda,
right.
it just keeps scrolling down.
Oh, okay.
There you go. That
Okay.
Number 59 is the
So we
agenda.
have to do a roll call. Randy, you want to start us off?
Randy Powell, present.
Van Broderick, present.
Masterson present.
Carolyn Lundberg, present.
Jake Hoyt present.
Thank you. And Mike is absent. We have item to approve the minutes of the March 1st, 2021 meeting. Any additions or corrections to that?
Make a motion to approve the minutes of March 1st, 2021.
Thank you very much. Is there a second?
I'll second.
Thank you, Randy. Call for the vote. All in favor?
Aye.
Unanimous again. And let's go ahead and open a public hearing. Someone?
I'll motion to open a public hearing, Mayor.
Carolyn, second by Jake. All in favor?
Aye.
Hearing. And my mic just keeps going off and on, man. That's,
All right, so we're amending the RDA budget and then the tentative budget for 2022, adopting that for the RDA. The biggest change is that there was a contribution from the State Street District for the new slide, and that is being postponed. So this year's budget being amended to not do it this year, but do it next year. So.
housekeeping, basically. Yeah.
Very much so. Any comments?
We'll open it up to the public. Any comments on that? Man, we're gonna get something out of you tonight, I'm sure. Anyway,
They're saving up.
saving up.
I'll motion to close the public hearing.
Second.
We have a motion by Jake and a second by Randy to close the public hearing. All in favor?
Aye.
Yeah, any opposed? That's unanimous. Okay. So we need to take action, right?
Yeah, I got it right here. I'll move to approve Resolution 2021-2-RDA, amending the current fiscal year 2021 RDA budget and adopting the fiscal year 2022 RDA tentative budget.
A motion by Jake, a second by Van. All in favor?
Aye.
It's unanimous. Thank you. Now we need to adjourn this meeting and go back.
I move to adjourn the Lyndon RDA meeting and reconvene the Lyndon City Council meeting.
Motion by Van, is there a second?
I'll second.
Thank you, Randy, all in favor?
Aye.
Okay, we're back in Lyndon. We didn't move.
What a
Anyone
journey
come?
that was.
Pretty magical, isn't it? Okay, review and action on the item number 11, which is the park tax mini grant funding recommendations. For all you do, Juan, appreciate it.
Council, we had 2 applications this year. They're included in your packet for park mini grants. One is for the bagpipe people.
Are you buying bagpipes? So,
And the other for Lyndon Elementary. Lyndon Elementary, just on in the elementary PTA, let me be clear, they have really done some amazing things with this park tracks. And if you ever had a chance to see their music program and the instruments that they've provided between the years that they've applied, it's great. And they've made application for some more instruments that I included in that, as well as a couple of music stands. They have been funded in 17, 18, 19, 20, and 21 in various amounts. And it's all being instruments, and then 1 year a music program that we bought for them to help kids learn music a little bit better. So I'm recommending that we go ahead and approve their grant for $31,0429. And then the Garden Valley Bagpipe Band is currently using our building to practice. And in fact, I often have a chance when they start up, it's kind of hard not to hear them, but when my office is right there, usually when that drum hits and that first bagpipe blows, it's startling to me. And it reminds me it's time to get up and go listen. But they are asking for some marketing and advertising. Remember, they provide, if you read the report, they provide free lessons. Last year, they made application to buy some instruments that they could loan and teach with. And then they use a majority of that on space rental. What we would like to do with this, and they're right on target this year from last year's funding, we would like to issue them the whole check and then have them come pay us back the amount of rental, so we make sure that we have the days right and times right, instead of just deducting $4,000 from their request. We believe they're open to people coming in and learning, and they're actively out in the community trying to market themselves. They're in our parade every year and stuff. So
They are in our parade. That was
those are
my
the 2
question.
applications that we received this year.
There is one really serious question that must be answered here. As you're listening to them, are they getting better?
Yes. In fact, I say that with a tongue in cheek, but I'll just briefly, I know it's a long night, but I was about 6:30 one night sitting there just contemplating and thinking about the next day and going home, and I had my head like this, and I may have drifted off a little bit, and they hit that first, and I stood up like it was the morning of the first resurrection. It scared me so bad. But yeah, they're really good, and they're getting better all the time.
How many are there in the group?
You know, last time I went in and listened, which was probably 2 or 3 weeks ago, they had 6 or 8 drummers and about 12, 15 bagpipes, and they really do well. So it's a good use of space, and they want space to practice, and this is a good opportunity for them for being granted some space once a week.
And they're in the auditorium.
They are in the CCA, a community, Macaw.
I'm completely in favor of this.
Okay.
Lyndon Elementary does a good job at advertising that it comes from the park tax.
They do.
They have a parents' night, and I've gone in there and they've got signs for the park tax. They mention the park tax, not knowing that I was on city council. So
Every year I provide them with, and they have logo restrictions in the packet that they have to do, and they have to announce and put the city's park tax information in there. by rule, and every year I give them a banner for the fence and stickers for their instruments, and they're really good about it, the PTA.
Any more review? Are we good?
I do have a quick question before I'd like to make
Go
a
ahead.
question. So this was on the 2015 ballot, correct, our part?
Correct.
Tax?
15, is that right?
Wasn't it
Yeah, it started
2015?
in,
I think we're in our seventh
we're
year.
in the 7th now, so, and it's for 10.
And 15, no?
Yeah, I
Yeah.
think so.
So 7th year. So we come back up, we'll put it on the 20, I mean,
It's
on
the
the
year-
19th. Will be it. I mean, not
I-
19, what am I doing?
Let me send
Yeah.
you an email on it. Can I do
Okay,
that?
okay.
Okay, so I get it right.
Yeah.
I can't get it
It's the year that it expires when it will go on the ballot, so that it will renew that following April.
Okay.
And so,
Ahead of time, in its 9th year, correct?
yes. And as a reminder, the city itself, we cannot expend funds to support or oppose a ballot or an issue that will be voted on. However, you as elected officials can talk and promote and oppose all you want. And so, just not with city funds.
So it would not be in this election cycle, it would be in 2 years from this election cycle?
That
Or would-
sounds correct.
Or would it be?
But let me
on-
verify
well,
that.
it would be during a municipal election year, correct? I mean, I'm trying to see how we work out.
Last
I
time,
believe so,
Yeah.
yes.
On the 10th year.
Yeah.
it was in when we were running for the first time.
Yep,
Was it-
2014. So
oh,
I
was it
believe it's
14?
2024.
Oh, 20,
That it'll be,
I had it in my
2013.
notes right
Oh,
here.
yeah.
So this
Big
was
year.
from our budget kickoff. So we're at year 7 out of our 10-year limit. It ends April of 2024, so it would be the 2023
okay.
it goes on
November
It will be
election.
the next time.
And just as a reminder, I mean, it's voter renewal required, and it's a huge amount, $600,000 a year that we receive from that. It's 1/10 of 1 cent on purchases, and so.
Mostly paid by guests to our city.
Yes, when we originally looked at this, when it was approved, we were estimating it was approximately 80% of the sales tax revenues that we receive are from those living outside of Lindon City. So,
And it's fun to see how other people are using our acronym that we.
Should have got a nickel every time
I know,
somebody used it.
another city is using our acronyms so that we so hard, desperately, we're trying to find a way to put a C in there, right? Was it the C? I think we
Yeah.
were struggling with
Yeah.
this.
It's been great for us. And of course, it's been hopefully great for the residents is what we've passed on. And we're paying a lot of utilities with it for the pool and some other things that it's legal to do with. So it's been a good help for us.
Numbers back from the 2020 census to know if we're going to be retaining more of our, exportation of sales tax to the state.
Mike, do you know when those come out? It's like a year after they finish everything, is what I recall. It
There's
takes a
no
long time.
preliminary, okay.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it seemed like in the 2010, it took almost a year before we had any indication. So, as soon as we know, we'll let you know.
Great. If it's okay, I'll make a motion.
Thank you, Randy.
I move to approve the 2021 Park Tax Mini Grants Awards as presented.
We have a motion by Randy, a second by Van. We've had a lot of good discussion. We'll call for the vote. All in favor?
Aye.
That's unanimous. Thank you.
recuse myself from.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
This is a discussion item, a planned residential development overlay. Boy, Mike blues the color tonight with the masks. You and Heath, yeah, it's good. Matched.
Yeah.
Sure, go ahead, Mike.
All right. Thanks, Mayor and council members. I put together a staff report for you this week, or last week, that went through a few items in general regarding some general plan considerations, UDOT access, separation access requirements, fire department recommendations, an Alpine School District response, transitioning and buffering, some of the highlights from the planned residential development overlay zone. So the developer provided 6 site plans. that you guys can talk through this evening as part of the discussion. Do you have any questions specific to the staff report that I could go through? Any of the UDOT or fire department recommendations? For UDOT, their recommendation for private streets or private accesses or driveways, they require a 200-foot separation. For public streets, they require a 350-foot separation between accesses. We talked to the fire department about access. The more access, the better they feel. They kind of ranked things as, what they said to me was like good, better, and best. The best is if they can have access from, 570, 500, and state. Better would be state and 500. Good if you could get access to access points from State Street. Just kind of a brief overview there. I'd be glad to answer any questions you have or let you discuss the different plans with Amy. I've got with these plans. City staff and the planning commission reviewed a few of these. Some of them may have setback concerns or things like that. I kind of listed our comments from the city or the planning commission down the side there on these plans. But I think, Amy, these were meant more for discussion with the planning commission, with the city council.
And all 6 of these kind of have, they've all been renditions of like, okay, meeting with neighbors or, with it and coming through different plans. So, obviously the top concerns that we've all heard are, accesses into the other neighborhood. So all of these plans have different, we've done it so that there's only one. I believe Randy even mentioned like, hey, can you just make it go, don't go into the other neighborhoods, just go out of state. And so that's one of the new plans that we had, shows it just looping. Our traffic study says that the roads won't fail with that. So we can absolutely do that and not touch the other neighborhoods. With that, and we knew that the fire department wanted 2 access points. So part of that, the one loop would have like a crash barrier, basically a way access to go through 500 to get to there in the event that there was a problem. So that they're, so maybe scroll up to.
And I think one thing to keep in mind too, our ordinance specifically says if there's public utilities in that street, it's got to be a public street.
Right.
Standard.
Yeah. And ours, all of these, the size of these streets are all public streets. So we're not doing private streets within here. Because private streets, you can do smaller road widths. And all of our designs are so that they're public. So the snow plows, everybody can get through for it.
Is there a specific one you wanted me to?
I was just trying to show, like this one is kind of showing that loop plus the barrier of it. Now that cul-de-sac with the fact that we have, the old design has that, we could simply put those as like twin homes, like luxury twin homes on the, on the side, or we've also did a different model of you have to understand every engineer site plan that I sent is like thousands of dollars every time I do. So I didn't want to recreate every time for it, but I'm just saying, okay, that cul-de-sac, we could change it to not having, right there's 2, 4, 6, 7 lots in there. That could simply be 3 or 4. Well, we have to have a middle one because that's where and I think it shows in a different side plan. Go to the next one over. That one, yeah. Oh, well, that one has the road going through instead.
Yeah, that one.
Yeah, that one has the right there going through so we can put the utilities through. So it's like a pathway of kind of like a buffer to say here, the neighbors can go through here. So,
just as a walking path, though.
yeah, just as a walking path. That one's not a trail. Oh, points here. Good, thanks. So that's not a breakthrough. So fire trucks, if they're in the emergency, couldn't break through to go through there, but they do have access on 500 if needed for it. So, let's see. So then we kind of created, going back, yeah, that one has, I think, a lot of great green open space in there, but that has both access points in there. It doesn't have, I know Carolyn and Randy wanted more of that buffer, you know, the single family homes within, as a thought.
It also doesn't have the interconnected roads through the middle, it's just one loop road.
Yeah.
So just at the direction of planning commission, we made some of these changes, so.
Why don't you go to the new one that we designed that has, well, there's, okay.
This one?
Yeah, this one, so that one shows, well, this is one that we had a second neighborhood meeting and we had a individual off 500 ask like, well, could you split some of the housing to be separate, you know, like, so to share the load. This one provides, I think, some good open space difference there. Obviously, not all the markings are listed on the, like they are in the other one. But the idea there is that 570 then has a couple of the units coming on the end of theirs. And, you know, yeah, 10. And then the other ones have the other part. And there's a way, we can make this so that 500 is also a smash gate. Again, like that it doesn't connect there into 500. However, all this traffic studies do you say that 500 is grossly underutilized. But I get it. There's kids on the street and, you know, people don't want traffic. But it's 9, again, the traffic study does say at the highest peak of traffic, it's 9 extra trips per that time is what that traffic is. It's 9. So regardless, in those percentages. So, let's see. Do you want to go to, there was one other, is that the last one?
That was the last.
That's the last
There's
one
this
on there. Did we go with that one? So that one is doing 570 is not connected through. Obviously, it just has a loop. Those are, we can make those those are twin homes there, but it could be like a twin home, but it could be technically, well, I don't know if the setbacks are there, but for it to be a single family. But then we've only looped it through. We can also, as a traffic measure, on 500, we can put a pork chop, which basically means you can only turn right out of 500 to go out on State instead of going left to go around through the neighborhood and up to Locust. That's something that we could put in the road as a item there. So that one has the big open green space there as well for it. But I'll stop talking now and listen. you guys share your thoughts and opinions on the roads, and obviously we're not presenting the perfect plan yet. You know, I know some of the other things you guys had talked about was density. That was a part, and we're willing to look at that. I do know that the city council voted on 10 units for it, so we were kind of following the ordinance there, and I'm willing to adjust that to make it work for you. I want to create a win-win, but ultimately it doesn't make a difference if I take out a couple units here and there if I don't get your roads right, of how you want the roads and how you want us to be within the city. Like, for example, if we're not coming into the communities in the residential, like if we're not coming into 570, we're only going out of State Street, then does the density, is that as large of an issue for you? Maybe let's ask that question.
Could you repeat the question? Sorry.
Okay,
Well, I
sorry.
was gonna say, you can repeat it how does that road on 500 North as it's coming down, is it just gonna, how does that tie into State Street then? That's just you're
Well, the
talking about
idea
just a
there,
complete right turn
if we
only?
went with this plan, the idea is we could put a pork chop on it, basically meaning that you can only turn right to go out. You come out there and come out to State Street, and you can't go up to Locust. That's a traffic measure that we could put on this property.
I guess your only issue is, okay, so if I live in these townhomes, I wanna go to church here, I've gotta go to 600 North, all the way to Locust, back down 500 North
Or you
to
walk
get to the church. So, I'm just,
Or you make that really bad illegal.
You know, I live
Roundabout left.
I live a
turn,
couple houses
like
from a
most people
church
do.
in the wintertime or a bad storm. I'm gonna take my car.
Okay, well, again, yeah, if you choose to drive to church, then there's that. Or, I mean, there was discussions on not putting, I mean, the code, there was some different interpretation on how the church is it residential, is it R1, you know, what is that? We're right now doing a 30-foot setback with the church, you know, so there's possible, we can make an entrance to the church, possibly, I don't know. But yeah, I guess you, if we're not, but I think if you took a toll with the neighbors and you asked them, would you rather in the winter drive an extra block to get to your church versus, you know, having the traffic come through your neighborhood and let them vote, I think they would say, I'd rather you go around, but. So I think we're just trying to make a compromise. Again, regardless, even on high times, this is only 9 trips per the highest time that you're going out. So it's even if that.
So Carolyn, the question she had asked that maybe you wanted repeated was the fact, does density, is that an issue if it doesn't go into the residential area?
Correct.
10 units per acre, is that okay as long as it flows into State Street? It doesn't go into residential?
Well, all along, the ordinance that, in my mind, if you read the ordinance, it's up to 10. That always gave me a sense that the council could look at a project based on the parameters of how the intensity and how that impacts and give us some flexibility. So it wasn't a blanket, always 10 in every situation. So in my mind, the density.
That's an excellent point. The only reason why I asked that question is because, you know, I was comparing to the nursery project and the comment was made, yeah, but that project isn't affecting communities. It's not going into any other neighborhoods around. And they're single family car garages, they're smaller units than our luxury, like these are high end units. So it's not like, you know, I'm not trying to stack them cheap and sell, you know, I mean, build them cheap and stack it, whatever that phrase is, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
But, so that's why I asked that question is, does the density, because ultimately it goes down to, I mean, when we're talking to the budgets wise, you know, the more bedrooms, the more tax dollars it brings for you guys, helps on revenue, it helps. And I just don't know if taking out 1 or 2 units, if we are I mean, you go into other developments and see townhomes that have 30-foot backyards, that's not it's not very common out there. You know, they're 5 and 10 for the backyards.
Yeah.
So.
Well, in regards to circulation, I know staff has recommended, you know, the better circulation, the more opportunities for circulation, the better. I'm thinking about how do we balance the impact of the current residents, but not exclusively then negatively impacting the future residents that are going to live here and their safety, trying to always come on and off State Street as well. So I think I like some of these options where maybe you're helping share the load, maybe not make, 570 100% open to the entire thing. I think also some of the feedback, the Planning Commission here, there's a note on one of the pages. The staff made the majority of the Planning Commission wanted to see 570 North connected in some fashion.
And I was kind of
500,
surprised by that,
It's
with
interesting.
Planning Commission. Almost every design that I was showing Planning Commission, because I felt like I was hearing from the community that they did not want that to go through. And so the majority of our designs at the front were not going through. And it was just when they continued it 3 times, and on the 3rd time, they basically said, you better come back with it coming through. So
Well, they said to come back with 2 options, one showing it going
Going
through
through
it, and
and
one
one
being
not.
blocked so they could
Yeah.
see how it laid out.
Right.
Yeah,
And
okay.
they chose, out of those 2, which we have both of those in here, out of those 2, they wanted it to go through.
I think there's been a lot of mixed opinions in the community as well.
Yeah.
And so, we don't want to be,
I don't mind either way.
Yeah,
Just tell me which way you want it to
Yeah.
be. I just want to get through, let me do
Right.
whatever we
The
can
other-
do.
the other thing that I've been hearing from Planning Commission and community members is wanting to see a transition of use from the half-acre or more lots on 570, not going straight into townhomes, but, maybe having another single-family type product. And so I like seeing
So you
those
like
lots.
the cul-de-sac, can you go to the?
Well, even this one that's up has.
creating more space and
Yeah, this one has a
distance.
single family, that one has a twin, but the cul-de-sac with single family homes with the path going through,
Option 2, isn't it?
that one, right there. Do you like that?
Now, this one this is not a crash gate. This is an actual, it's just a path and a crash gate.
The cul-de-sac, that one we have a road going through,
It's close to traffic on the cul-de-sac,
yeah.
and then it connects to 500 and State Street. So
Okay.
no access from the east at all, just foot traffic and utility corridor.
And we could implement a pork chop on that, so it goes out to state.
The one thing the commission was concerned about with this one was the road backing onto this building. They didn't necessarily like the back of the building facing these townhomes. They were worried about, overhead doors being on the back of those buildings, on that commercial building. So,
Right, but Mike, we're not putting doors on the back of that building.
no, but what I said was that was some of the feedback from the planning
Okay.
commission.
You won't have any access,
No,
no man doors even?
We had planned, because of how the planning commission said, we would like to put doors back there, but no, we weren't planning on that.
Any man doors on the back of the building would be blocked by the wall or the
Yeah.
fence. So there would be a barrier between the commercial and that.
We would put a fence along that road.
So I don't know, Mike, if you can do the cursor towards 500. So that is actually, that's not a crash gate there.
That's actually a road, yeah.
It could be either.
It could be both. Yeah, we could crash gate that through.
The laser pointer.
I know.
Quick question on those single-family lots, reason why they're not half acre?
We had a different one that had 2 different it's just how the triangle is, and then your setbacks, for that, it would have been difficult to build the house.
We did write into the ordinance, under the PRD's overlay, you could go down to a 5,000 square foot.
I understand that.
Yeah.
I just wondered.
It would take a lot of area.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, it'd be difficult to get the unit count. Yeah, just to be honest.
Yeah.
Well, I think my opinion is I would like to see the overall unit count do come down, keep some more transitional space between that, and I think if the unit count comes down, I think it can best be served by keeping a good circulation within that community, keeping the open space preserved that's usable, and more parking as well.
Okay.
So, questions?
We're definitely at the parking for it, plus 2-car garage, plus 25-foot driveways, which most townhomes are at, 20. But we're at 25, but that's okay.
Well, let me clarify that real quick. So we looked at all these different designs with the, I don't know if we have one that shows it, all these sidewalks behind the buildings. And we asked Amy if she would put a plan together, put the sidewalks in front of the buildings. So let me go to this plan. So this one, I don't know if this one shows it. This one does. So, so what this would show is a 21-foot driveway with a 4-foot sidewalk. The sidewalk would still be part of their lot, but it would be in a public utility or public sidewalk easement. So you'd still have a 25-foot setback, but 21-foot driveway. So they'd still meet the setback requirements.
But Carolyn, I'm happy to adjust a little bit on the units to make sure, and especially have extra visitor parking. So to like the short part of that, go back to the other plan that we were
Maybe,
just.
do you mind if I just make a comment?
Yeah.
I think the density will end up being kind of the end result once we answer some of the layout questions.
Right.
So if we can maybe get some feedback on the connection with 570, whether that needs to go through or not. If we want to make a direct connection to 500, or if we want to look at more of a crash gate situation with the ride in, ride out. All those options could work on basically every one of these concepts. But just knowing if we're closing off 570 with the cul-de-sac and adding those transition units, I think that's a good place to start. Like looking at this as a work session and just trying to understand what you guys' thoughts are, and we can make some notes and hopefully come back. I mean, the goal is we leave tonight with enough direction that the next concept we come back with is something that you guys could be excited about. And
Let me share one thing of our laser pointers. This is awkward in every plan in my mind.
Sorry, go back. Sorry.
This through here is just awkward in a cluttered way to try to get your unit count to make it work. It just feels not good to me.
So, well, the problem is like, for example, if we went this, then you have.
which number is that?
This one is.
Or options.
Option, where, 1.
Yeah, if you can pull that up, that's helpful.
Okay, so, but mine looks different.
See yours.
No, I guess it's a little bit, I guess it's the same, it's just the way things are printed out. So, say we have to get in via a cul-de-sac, but then your lot is super long and skinny if it goes all the way back to the property line.
Which one are you talking about?
These two
Kathy, do we not
lots
have the laser
right
count?
here.
Work on this TV anymore.
This,
They don't show it.
Yeah, sorry, Mike, if you can, yeah, see those? Say I extend those 2 lots, not those 2, go to the other cursor. Sorry. Say I extend those 2 lots to the property line. It's like a really long, awkward lot. Don't you feel? Where instead I could put some raised garden beds there, barbecue amenity there, I could put we don't show any of the amenities here because we're not at that stage. But I feel like you could put an amenity there instead in the corner.
Just to get some direction, is there a plan that's less awkward that you want us to tweak? Or one of the other options is we keep the cul-de-sac where it's at currently. We work with the landowners to expand it to meet city requirements. Work with the landowners just to keep it where it's at, but just expand it so it has the sidewalks and it's the right widths and everything like that. know that we've really shown that option on.
Maybe
This
on
is
option
sort of
5,
close.
Yes, yeah,
option
it would
5
be
kind of shows
kinda-
that.
But is there one of these options that you look at and say, well, this is less awkward, this is the direction we want to go, and just make it better?
And we can fix it, yeah. So option 5, I could make, instead of those 2 as being a twin, I could make that a whole lot on both sides of there. It's a very good sized lot there.
Well, you probably won't like what I would say, that everything involves removing some buildings there.
Well, we're talking about that. I'm not saying that I'm not willing to do that. What we're trying to get out of the work session is the connectivity and the flow.
Yes, and I agree with that.
Okay.
And I agree with, and then I was throwing another part, that
Okay,
area
that
is awkward.
Okay,
I've been really quiet.
yes, Randy, share.
So, tell me your name.
Amy.
Oh, I know your name.
Oh,
I'm so
Boyd.
sorry, Amy. I'm sorry.
Boyd.
Boyd?
Boyd, I'm with Galloway, I'm a
Nice.
civil engineer.
Okay, so I like what you had to say, Boyd, is that, and I love everything you're trying to do, Amy.
And we want to make something happen.
Yes,
Don't
I
get me-
really,
don't
really
get me
do.
wrong.
And Amy's one of my favorite names because that's my oldest daughter's name, so I'll never forget yours. But, so Boyd's made the comment of getting things in place and then making the number of units. And I don't know how much you meant with that and to what degree, but I like that idea of putting the infrastructure in and getting what you can get, as much as you can, as long as all these parameters are being met. That brings happiness and joy to us so that we can give you an approval. For me, and I've said it all along, it's the flow that matters the most. I'd like it mostly to go, I know we need to have a crash. I'm a crash bear. I'm in favor of those where we need to put those for safety. So that's high on my priority list. To me, I'd have to do a big morph of most of these together to get what I'd want. And again, then I would go to whatever number is left over to give you your max. But I need to have the green space. And I want you to have as much density as you can squeeze in there, Amy. I do. I'm a little bit different maybe, but for me, I've got to have the green space. I've got to have the parking huge. Any planned unit development like this, it's always, I've never been to one that's ever had enough parking. I'd love yours to be the one that says it can be done. So so I know we're going to have to take out some units to make that happen, to get sufficient that we're not going to have a problem with that. Now, I like the opportunities to have some sidewalk or some street parking wherever this is available. And I think that's important because most of these developments that I've ever been in my whole life, very seldom do they have them legally along the sidewalk. So I have the green space and the visitor parking not impacting 570, not impacting 500. I know people are going to go, 500. I know people are going to go around, hit 600. I know they'll still hit 500. I'd love to see us being able to work out something at some point with Alpine School District to access to Locust. That would solve a lot of problems, but that's outside of the scope of this project. I totally understand that, but I can blow on a birthday candle and make a wish. And that would be my wish for everybody here.
Keep the setbacks, I would add into what she said. Don't come back and say we couldn't get the setbacks in this area.
Right.
For me.
Well, we're matching all the setbacks right now.
Some of the notes from staff on ours says that some setbacks are not necessarily met on a few of these
think,
plans.
Depends on which plan we're looking at, for
Which
sure.
we're looking at, but
Look where they're proposing their fences, like, this is a 10-foot fence in the back, so they're asking for those setbacks to be reduced from 30 to 10, so they can create the larger open space, but, so no, not on none of the plans are all the setbacks being met.
On all of, there's not one.
There's not one.
That they're all being met.
Even,
but you're saying
The
technically,
one that we brought to planning commission,
now look where your fences are. They're,
because they're saying that we want a private backyard. Well, so that's the thing, is we're saying, okay, they want to have the measurement is there to the road, but we want to be able to allow the citizens to have a private backyard so they can put a dog, for their kid, whatever, in a fenced backyard, you know, a dog or a kid, whatever.
So these ones
Kids
that are
with
along,
dogs.
Kids with dogs.
the ones with the minimal backyard fence, right? Yes, right, heading,
That still fits the 30 thing, but we want
But if
their
that had
lot
a-
line to have a 10-foot backyard so they can actually fence it. Does that make sense?
absolutely. And I've actually owned a townhome just like that, 10-foot. It was 10 by 20 or something. I barely could get a canopy in the back. It was when we were doing the remodel here. And the backyard fence is to the property for the new Orm temple. So it had a 10-foot backyard, and I will say, I have no problem with that, me personally. We had a push lawnmower, it worked just fine.
Yeah.
So, I mean, I'm not opposed to this, somebody else might be, but I've lived this for the 10 months that we were remodeling.
That's the most common thing for, because yes.
It was very usable. And
It's very usable.
Yeah.
It's nice to have 30 feet, like the backyard, those other ones have 30 feet backyards, right? But it is nice to, in a sense, claim your space and be able to fence it.
More private.
And more private.
Absolutely. So I'm saying that you're going to have some people who might not want that small space. There are other people that will be very happy with that small of a
Right.
space. And they might not put any lawn in it.
Right, so when I
So-
say we're not meeting the setbacks, it's not because we're going 10 feet to a property line of single-family homes or that we're abutting other families, it's we're talking about because of private fence. And you guys have the you guys have the power to approve that. As
Like,
long as we can
I'm not
show that.
opposed, I'm saying that
Okay.
10 feet are workable for me in that section but not
So-
next to the homes on the
So go
outside.
to option 2 for me, Mike. So if I'm not interpreting, but if I'm hearing you right, Randy,
Okay.
I feel like option 2
Oh, yeah.
best
Well-
fits what you're describing if I add and make sure that I have extra parking and that, and the green space.
And it doesn't,
And
that's
and
a crash
would you
barrier.
like 500 to be a crash barrier?
Yes, I would.
And you would like that plan?
I would like that plan. I mean, I don't particularly like the townhomes that face the back of the unit, but that's kind of a buyer's purchase. I mean, a preference that, I don't know, maybe they don't have to look at people coming in,
Maybe
I
that's a
don't know.
lower- Or those are a lower price point and that's what they
So-
can afford.
Something, I don't know.
Yeah.
That one is not as critical to me, but it's for me, I care about the residents that are purchasing there as far as the parking and the green space. And then the surrounding neighbors by not overflowing into their single-family, traditional Lindon residential area.
Okay, how about you,
Thank you.
Ben? How do you feel about option 2 with some of those things that we just talked about?
I start to feel a little better if the single-family lots come in a little bit further, and you do lose some units, I know, on the other side, so that's still just,
So are you saying to extend lot 4 and 3 to make them deeper?
well, I can't read the numbers.
I know, I'm sorry.
So it's 4 up at the corner.
4 up in the corner.
And just so I can clarify something, that cul-de-sac though can't probably be shifted further to the
Yeah,
west.
that
It-
cul-de-sac has to stay there like that.
So our city
Right.
ordinance says from Locust, it can only be 650 feet deep.
But if you were
So-
to lose, let's just pick a number, just a few townhomes on this side, you would create more depth and some green space around that road or something along that lines.
Yeah,
So
so
the
the lots
green
come out a little
space
bit.
for the individual single-family homes that you want?
Just open space.
Or is it
just
more
less-
green space within the townhomes? Because we could make lot 3 and 4 deeper and shift our road up slightly. And basically what that would do is it's gonna carve off to the almost 6 units
Well,
right there, right? We're
What
gonna
about
carve off
this
some
side?
of those.
One thing I'm just brainstorming here, instead of making lots 3 and 4 deeper, let's have behind them some less dense townhomes, like say twin homes, and the circulation loop comes in, but then adjacent to them on that east side are not townhomes that are as small, but maybe some a little bit more graciously sized twin homes.
Oh, okay, I thought you were gonna say
And then the
patio
twin
homes. We
homes
tried
back
make
up to the
this
single
site plan
family.
patio homes.
You have single family, then some twin homes, then townhomes.
But if you don't mind just asking more like a philosophical question, if the road's not going through, is a transition and a buffer as necessary?
Yes, I think so. I think it helps
In
just
my
with the
opinion.
overall, the density that we're talking about, just the amount of, one of the things that we're hearing is, oh, we're worried about parking, we're worried about traffic, we're worried about, and I like, one other element that I really love on one-year plans, Amy, is we talked about this being a microcosm of a community within the community. And one of the things is, that's why we have in the ordinance the amount of green space that's required, so people can have a place to come out and get to know their neighbors. And I really like the plans when you have some sort of a connected walking path, similar to what you have in number 1.
I see.
I love that. And I think that gets people outside, it gets them knowing their neighbors. And if there's the connection, to 570 via pedestrian or bicycle, I think that would be a great connection between the communities as well. Yeah. Number 1 has too many lots in the cul-de-sac.
We can fix that part. What were you gonna say, Bud?
Just so you maybe understand one of the challenges that we have, I think we really like the idea of a great open space in the middle, but with the requirement of a 30-foot backyard, and I'm not arguing against that, but we literally are getting 20%, we're meeting the landscape requirement just in the backyards. So any other open space that we're talking about just creates more and more open space, which, again, I'm not arguing against, but we're meeting just the requirement in the backyards. So in my mind, the backyards become a great amenity to the citizens that live here. They'll really enjoy those, and they may use those backyards a lot more than they would use a common amenity, just because they have that extra space. So again, maybe just to even put you in my shoes, that's one of the challenges that we're up against with the open space, is the backyards just take up so much.
And I hear you, Boyd, but you have to remember, Lyndon is unique on so many levels that we have a large amount of parks, and yet a large portion of our city has half-acre lots. I mean, I'm on a half-acre lot. My last home was over an acre. You live on what, how much? A third of it, and which is still much larger than Orem, and that was a big transition when Lyndon put those type of lots into place. Carolyn's on a heavy half, probably.
3/4.
3/4 of an acre, and yet she's right next door to a park. And so we like our open space. So that homeowner is gonna love their backyard, but they're gonna love the additional open space, which just makes them part of Lyndon. This is what we do, and this is why this has been a challenge versus maybe other communities. I know this is not density, and that's why I feel for Amy. I feel so bad, because in some ways this would be an easy slam dunk in other communities, and yet we're challenging you, and I'm grateful that you are going through this with us.
Yes, thank you.
I agree that, look, half-acre lots are fabulous, but we also have to remember in just 2020, from looking from last year to this year, Utah County alone, just Utah County, not Salt Lake County, has risen in property values 20%. And so,
I'm not advocating that here.
I'm
saying
just
that what we're doing here
No,
is
I know,
still
I'm just
a little
explaining
bit.
that even these townhomes being at where they're at the price point that we have to, with the cost of lumber and everything else, the more we can, the more we break off and do the open space. And I get it, because that's beautiful. I've created a lot of other beautiful subdivisions that have gorgeous open space. So I'm not against open space. I love open space. But what it ends up going to is it doesn't go, and it's not for me. What it goes to is goes to the bottom dollar for the new Lyndon City residents that are coming here, because that's where the price goes to them. And maybe that's okay, that's okay, now, instead of, when we first started this program, when we very first, last year, trying to do this, our initial numbers were that these townhomes would be in the 325s range, 350s.
Yeah, that ship has sailed.
Well,
Yeah.
well, just the price of 2x4s, right?
Right, and now we're
2x6s.
talking about the high, so the affordability has just gone out of the window. Now we decrease, the land cost is exactly the same. And now the lumber and all those other parts. So I'm just expressing, just understand that that's what we can decrease some of the units. We can make more open space for it. Just understand that's who it's going to hurt the most. It's not out of the builders' pockets because they're going to get their money with what's there. It's
But
gonna
to
be
that
for the
point,
resident.
that I think what we're doing here collaboratively, that side and this side here, is we're creating a commodity that is completely different from anything that's out there. I mean, within our reasonable grasp. I look at I haven't even really looked too much of what Orem has just proposed on 1600 North and 400 West.
55 units to the acre.
How many?
55.
Right, at 1600 North and 400 West. That's just a mile from,
Insane.
3/4 of a mile from my own home. So it's, that is going to be, that's there. And yet that gives us even more reason why what we have is much more unique.
People come
than-
to Lyndon for this reason.
For the exact same
Yeah.
reason. And
But
so,
why you can see that 10 units to acre is not high density,
well,
right?
but for us, it's creating the institutional ability for people to understand, even when they buy density in Lyndon, it's a Lyndon version of density. It's not Orem's, it's not Pleasant Grove.
I completely agree with you on that, and that's why I feel like what we're doing here with the 30-foot backyards and everything else, it is very, there's not another townhome development like this.
And it's
There's-
going to be highly desired.
It will be highly desirable. And
So let's just go back. I hear you on that. I do. So let's go back to, it sounds like the cul-de-sac idea on option 1 versus 2, maybe fixing, Carolyn, I like your idea of, so if I go to option 2
So
for
real
me,
quick,
Mike.
but let's talk about the cul-de-sac.
Oh, okay.
Councilmember Lundberg, is that what you want to see as well? I know we heard from
I like the
Councilman
idea of the
Vanchery
transition
today.
of single family, then some twin homes that are a little larger, and then the townhomes. And so that means the overall count of units won't be 76 or 78.
Right.
We're talking coming down. Love the idea of keeping a pathway, as well as,
Would
the extra
pathway
parking.
The one other thought, because I was completely open to the pathway, and then I had talked to other people, and they said, well, I feel like then I've got bike riders riding in my backyard.
well, they have fenced yards,
No,
so it's behind
I
them.
can't put fenced backyards with
With the
this.
pathways.
Oh,
That-
okay.
Yeah, you can't have both.
I can't have both,
Thank you for that clarification then.
so.
So let me ask the council this question. One of the issues, which is an issue that everyone in this room probably wants to know one way or the other, connections,
Yes, we have to address
the
that.
roads. We need to let her know, are the roads open or are they closed?
For me, I've been very
Closed?
adamant, closed.
Both roads,
Yes.
just to clarify.
I'm happy to do a crash gate.
Okay.
Emergency access, I want people to be safe that way. but
Maintaining the pathway for kids,
I'm happy to, I'd like to, I'm for a pathway into in through there, both.
Into the cul-de-sac, how
the
this
cul-
one
and-
is
And
right here.
500, I'm okay with that, it's the impact on the residents is gonna, for me, was the parking and the actual the vehicle traffic, not the pedestrian traffic. They might not like that as much, but I'm okay with people walking through.
Okay.
I'm still trying to figure that out in my head from.
I'm
I like what
opposed.
she
I think
says
it
there, but
dumps
I like
all
what our
I think the residents on 600 North have made it very clear that that puts an undue amount of burden on them. And you close off circulation, that goes against every good planning. You know, when you talk to engineers, circulation needs to be balanced. Circulation needs to have, you know, extra options, especially when we're talking about this many potential residents. I'm thinking of the residents that are going to live here and what that means to them, that they can't even get to church without navigating State Street, left-hand turn. Maybe that left-hand turn will disappear someday if BRT comes through that corridor. I mean, I think we need to keep circulation open.
Do you feel like it's a good compromise then to have the cul-de-sac and maybe 500 open?
Is there any way, this is, and I know we've been down this road so many times, and Amy, I have to commend you for coming with so many options, and I know we're putting you through the ringer, trying to hear what people in the community are feeling and saying and the concerns that they've had as neighbors. But we're talking about giving some load, you know, downsizing units, giving some onto 570 there. Could there be just a dedicated portion that connects to 570 as well versus the entire complex?
We tried that because of the sewer, how the connectivity of the sewer is, and then how the depth of 570, and the best option, our best option was either one where we shared only 10 units, which I don't feel like this is the best plan, but.
And just to clarify, your ordinance says you can only have 14 units on a dead-end street.
Yeah.
So this last option doesn't work, because you've got 10 units here, you've got 6 units on 570 already, so.
So I'm gonna try to bring some clarity. Randy's a no, crash gate only. Carolyn, I think you're opting to openness for flow of
Some
traffic?
level of openness.
For
I think
both?
we need to balance the circulation and the load.
I'm just trying to
Some
move
fashion.
it
No, that's just not super clear.
to, and
Clear
Van
with me, though, huh?
is still unsettled?
Yeah, I mean, I like the cul-de-sac for the people that live there. I don't like the cul-de-sac for all of our response and the flow and all of that. It's just a conflicting, I mean, it is on the master plan to go through. I like the idea of using our master plan, so I don't know how many people actually look at it, but it's kind of your roadmap of how things were planned.
But do you think that the master plan, we did not anticipate on that time and date that we would ever do density? At the most, it would be commercial through there.
Certainly, I
So,
think I said I was conflicted
Yes,
here.
exactly.
You do have a general plan goal that recommends through streets.
Yeah.
Yeah, so I know we can,
And not to speak for Mike, but he did send me an email, and he wants the openness, he wants the roads connected.
I will say that I looked through a majority of our streets in the last couple of days, and to see how many of the dead-end streets that are not dedicated or were not intended to be cul-de-sacs. I know this. Some of the residents have assumed that it's a cul-de-sac. Well, a cul-de-sac has homes that surround a bulb. So we know that.
It's not a legal cul-de-sac.
And it's not, well, but there are other homes that are on streets that are what we call like a stub street or a dead-end street with the anticipation of once a property sells that it would go through and whatnot. And there's a few of them in town that, and the homes, if I did my research right, all started right around the late 70s, early 80s. And the majority of the homes that are still on streets like this are in that same time frame. So we evolved from allowing those to go through. We have a lot of cul-de-sacs in Lyndon, and a lot of them are on the east side of 400 North, or 400 East, and it's basically, I'm sure, because of the topography. But the ones that are similar to 570 are ones that were just a long time ago when we didn't when there was a lot more of land in Lyndon, and we just didn't see where this would go. So I understand the citizens would like to consider this a cul-de-sac. I've never considered that one. I know what it always had the potential to go through. I just don't think that our master plan ever considered the ramifications of all the people that could park along a road such as 570. And actually, I mean, I kind of did a little, I looked at all the council members. Every single one of us either live on a cul-de-sac, in a cul-de-sac, or our road ends in a cul-de-sac. So we all have access to that quaintness. I spent 22 years living on a collector road, so I understand the whoosh. And when I moved here, it was still a collector road, but it didn't go through to Pleasant Grove. And how that evolves, I understand how you no longer can use your front yard like you used to, and that's a hard one. So I feel passion on both sides. I understand that how the citizens feel, but I also have lived from time to time in some of these projects like this one, and so I can sit in my driveway. I can sit in my living room on both of these situations and know how that impacts. And for me to have this road 570 impacted is huge to me, and for us to assume that people having to drive around someplace to get to their place of worship, that's, I guess, I've driven a lot farther. In my lifetime, I've driven an hour to get to a place of worship that I choose. And living in Lyndon, I've had to, the Red Church used to be my church, and it was in my ward boundary. I had to drive to Orem because of growth, and because we were growing too fast, and still you do it. So you drive as far as you have to drive, if that's your choice. So having it just behind your fence line might be awkward, but to me, I have to have those roads closed with a crash gate for me to go forward. That's just me, so.
There's a point I can make, just maybe it's in support of what you're saying, but the traffic report shows that the majority of the traffic is going to go to State Street.
Mm-hmm.
The majority of trips that people make during the day are they're going to work, or they're going shopping, and they're making other trips and other errands, and a lot of those are going to be going towards the density. They're going to be going to Walmart, they're going to be going to the freeway, and a lot of those are going to be right out on State Street to go up to North County Boulevard to either get on the freeway or go into Walmart. Even with the bus route transit, they could still have a couple lights that they could make a U-turn and go south on State Street. But that's what the traffic study shows, is the majority of traffic is going to State Street. And that's regardless of whether 570 is open, whether you connect it to 500. The traffic study is saying that people are going to State Street, and that's according to national standards.
And I see what you're saying kind of as a two-edged sword. It might be saying, well, then not as many people are going to hit 570 for traffic, so what's the problem with why we're...
No, we're just saying...
Well, no, I'm just saying you could read it both ways.
Actually.
Right, it's worthy consideration, and I don't envy your position.
Right, no, and so, I can see where that would be, but for me, it's also about the residents of this development parking along the residents' streets, and no matter how you try to stop that, they're going to do that. For whatever reason, it's going to happen, and so for me to not have vehicle access to that is why
The good part about option 2, Randy, is if we did open it to kind of compromise with some of your other city council people, is that these roads are wide enough to have parking on the other side. So all along the church, you could have parking along there.
Mm-hmm.
There's parking on one side. So on the units that back the church, on that side, there's parking.
No, there's the only place for parking is right here. Right
Right,
here
if we
and
went
probably
down. Yeah, all
down
along
here.
the church.
Yeah.
Basically, the whole L of a church, there's extra parking on the road.
Yep.
And then there's also parking on the road.
Up by the cul-de-sac.
Yep, right there, there's some parking there. And then something to note, because I'll call it out on this one, this particular
On two?
planet, on option 2, is we have a total units of 78 units. And how they decided to calculate our thing, anyway,
There was a gap in that.
there's a gap in there, so it really needs to be 76. So,
Well,
autumn, right?
You would lose some more units here too, because you can't meet your setback requirements up here in the corner. So that was one of the comments
there
from the
was one
planning
there.
commission as well. They didn't want anything encroaching into that 300
Because
foot.
right there we have parking, even though that's not being utilized by Lowbrook, but
Yeah, we proposed a bite kind of at the north there to accommodate the units, and then to square off that bottom commercial piece, that finger going to the south.
yeah, there was a crosshatch trade
Yeah,
there that we were
going to
planning
propose
on.
more going to the commercial than to the residential. The planning commission did not like that, so we.
Yeah, it wasn't an equal trade, what the planning commission said.
So Amy, I think you have 2 votes to open the roads. You have 1 definitely not, and you have 1 undecided.
Okay,
I don't want to speak for you, Van, but I think,
Van,
Let me walk you through something.
give me some direction.
not that we're counting votes, but we got to get somewhere tonight.
Further. Then make some like twin homes right here.
Like Carolyn was
Yeah,
saying.
like that, to help
Okay.
that transition, to make this less awkward.
Okay,
I'm still not sure where we're doing there, but yeah, that would go. These would become maybe twin homes around. That's starting to make me feel better.
okay. But that's not an answer on the connectivity on the road. I completely hear what you're saying on the.
You're saying no
the-
to
the
570
back
if you
part.
say that.
And I said,
I-
I'm still
I-
not sure what has to happen here.
But 570?
But 570 close off.
In that scenario, 570, yes, is a cul-de-sac.
The feedback staff gave, for example, on this plan, was that, to put a traffic circle in here, so it tried to force more traffic this way, and that these townhomes became more single family, transitioned twin homes, more single family.
Because you need lots more land for a roundabout.
No, you didn't need it, no, we're not, it wouldn't be a roundabout, it would just be
Doesn't have
more
to
of
be
a
huge.
circle, so.
A more European circle.
Yeah,
I personally see
Not the one that was on
circles,
400 and
like when
400
we're
years
talking
ago,
about
remember that
traffic
one?
safety and kids and.
Our city engineer, that was his recommendation, so.
This one?
Well, to put in a traffic circle, and then we said, have a better transition through here with more single family.
I like that plan the least, but that's my opinion. I'm just saying it out loud.
What do you like the best?
That's what the planning commission liked the best, though.
That's what, yeah, you're right. That's what planning commission liked the best. I just feel like that breaks up when we're talking about open space. That one, we're putting in extra roads instead of green space.
Yep.
So, that's.
Yeah, but what the planning commission saw in this was that it sent some traffic, these units, the planning commission felt was going to go more to 500. These units would go more to 570. Their view, it split the traffic up more.
So Mike, if I could just get clarity, the vote at the plan commission to open both roads was a majority, right?
It was 4-2.
4-2, okay. So they are a recommending body. We can agree or disagree, but, I just,
Yeah, but we brought this plan to you guys who hated it, right? Like everyone voted against it. This is the plan that I brought last week or so.
But I don't think it followed what the planning commission recommended. They recommended more open space. They recommended a better transition.
Right.
So this was not the plan.
it wasn't consistent with their
Yeah,
vision.
The one, this was an error that I made on the note up here, but this was after the planning commission made the recommendation. This is the plan that was brought to you.
Oh, yeah.
So could we get closer to what they recommended? Would that be a good direction to go, or are we just?
Except for the city council is not in agreement to what planning commission is.
Well, have they seen that? you're saying this isn't what,
The council saw this last meeting, so.
but this is not what the planning commission recommended though, this one right here, right?
No, it was similar road.
Similar.
The road layout, the only difference is this had larger lots for the single family here.
Yeah.
And then these townhomes were over here in this open space area.
They wanted more open space, so we tried to create more open space. It's not that we were trying to change it. We were trying to take their recommendations and do something different.
That's why you brought a different one, because you were trying to take the recommendations from planning, is what you told us last time.
Yeah.
I'm sorry, I'm confused because it seems like it's changing all the time.
Of course.
So, can we make it understand what the planning
What's that?
recommended? If this is not what the planning commission recommended, can we get up there a map showing what the planning commission recommended, so at least we could have an
The
understanding?
planning commission recommended that they change it, to bring it to us. Am I saying that right?
There was one that they liked better.
Yeah.
It was that plan. It was just like, Mike, do you want to explain those differences? It's not like it was.
Can we see the one that they did kind of like?
Yeah, give me a second,
Yeah,
I'll pull
it
that
was,
up.
okay.
It just seems like it's confusing because it's changing all the time.
Yeah.
We don't know as residents what's up anymore.
I understand
And
that.
just to
I
be
did that for
clear-
2 years, so I understand that.
The planning commission didn't love one. They said, this is the one we like, but we recommend these changes.
But the one they didn't like that showed the cul-de-sac on 570 was 570 remaining exactly the same as it is right now, and that's what they didn't like. That was the cul-de-sac remaining closed, it was just keep it like it is.
Straight, saying
Yeah,
close.
Stub
it
straight
wasn't like
like
this
this one.
subdivision where you extend it with the four quarter acre homes on the
So
bottom.
this is the plan the planning commission made a recommendation on, but with conditions that the council look at a better transition and more open space. So the two plans that were presented to them at their last meeting was this one, and then this one with the
What was the
cul-de-sac.
density on this one? How many units per acre on that one, remind me?
They're both 76.
Okay, just making, one looked bigger than the other, but.
One has extra roads.
Yeah, one has more roads.
Yeah, they're both 76 units.
I think the planning commission, we also in our motion said to reduce density in doing that.
Yes, and we did
And
that.
I think, am I correct?
I've got the motion right here. It was,
Was create open.
Feeling for the developer, I'm feeling for the residents, I'm feeling for everybody here. And there aren't enough feelings to feel. I mean, it's like,
yeah, the commission said a decrease in density is to allow more open space in common areas and facilities and to increase the buffer/transition between the residential homes on 570 North.
And not 500?
No, they wanted 500 open and 570.
So if we went with that plan and create a little bit more open space,
Well, that's what we did on the one.
that's what we kind of did, that's what.
but it wasn't the right open space. Somehow it just didn't.
They felt like you scrunched everything to maintain the number of units
Right.
overall.
No, I get-
And so,
It's a lot of scrunching going on.
yeah.
There is scrunching going on, we're adding more roads, the roads take away from some of the open, and we could absolutely decrease a couple units, to create the open space. So again, I'm going back to the other question, maybe let's go back, like the mayor said, if you had a vote between, and not that we would vote, but as far as a jumping off point, do you like this one, this option, with it, going through, and we're kind of sharing the sorry. I'm tired tonight. Sharing the load, or do you like option 2, where we've got the cul-de-sac making the bigger buffer there? And
Let's
maybe
get option
this
2
one.
up, or is
This is option 2.
No,
The other
no, I mean this option.
This is option 2 of the planning.
That was
Sorry,
option
this-
2 of planning commission.
Tonight's option 2. Tonight's
Yeah.
option 2.
Tonight's option 2, sorry.
And I think I've been clear, my favorite would be this.
Okay.
And then have a transition,
Okay.
lower the
With this-
density overall, and then have a transition, a nice section of
the
graciously,
twin homes.
of twin homes
Okay.
that back up to the cul-de-sac, and then the loop comes in, the circulation, so now we're talking less. So some homes are taken up by 570, you have less quantity in the remainder, keep a nice open space somewhere in that community, meet the setbacks that are required.
Okay,
And then-
Dan, is that similar, from what I'm hearing from you, your thoughts are similar to Carolyn's, is that correct?
In a lot of ways that I want single-family lots,
Okay,
and then we transition into maybe some twin
And-
homes to help that buffer and that
and then, yeah,
change.
okay. But you like connecting through 500? What about you, man?
I think people need access
Like I
to
said,
the
if it's the
church.
right design and they share the traffic, I'm okay with that.
Randy, if
it
I
doesn't turn
accommodated
out-
their part with the transition and the lowering density, would you be behind keeping 500 open?
I'd be so happy if we could get to that point, Kevin, but I would still have to be not
Would
happy.
still no.
Which is okay. I
Yeah,
mean,
no, that's
it's okay.
You
I mean,
you don't need me, but I'm still not happy.
I know, but
jumping onto
I
500.
want to, I'm here to help compromise. I know I'm not gonna make everybody happy, right? Like,
Write in, write out on the 500, would that?
yeah, would that help? A write-in only, write-in, write-out?
So we're going to encourage people to make illegal or unsafe left-hand turns around that pork chop like they do into Walmart, it does discourage people. It's a discouragement. It's not, it won't prevent them from doing it. So, and we all know.
Probably okay.
Amy, you mentioned
Because it
trying to
diminishes
approach,
It does
to get
diminish.
access to the church parking lot directly.
Well, I just meant like, we could do a gate.
That would be a long shot.
It's
I
gonna be
don't
a
know
long
what-
shot. It's a long
That's
shot.
a huge long shot
Yeah,
before
yeah.
they'll put that in.
So comment about the pork chop. If I'm gonna interrupt for a sec or provide some feedback. So the pork chop, there's a parking lot right across from the pork chop, so people will definitely make a illegal left-hand turn and go back out through 500. So
That's what I was saying.
They will do that, that's exactly right.
That's what I'm saying.
The other observation I'd make is that there's a lot of church traffic already on 500 North coming and going to 500 North. And our concern is with the commercial development and this additional residential property, there's gonna be, even though you said that most people are gonna go out State Street, there's still gonna be people that's gonna go to Lyndon School, out 500 North, up Locust, and go to Lyndon Elementary School. So between the church traffic already going down to the church there, and people here going back through the neighborhood, I think.
You live on 500? I live on 500? Were
North.
you there when it was a ball field before the church was there?
Ma'am, I
Okay,
was.
so I remember back in the day when it was a substrate, and I used to go down and play ball down there, right?
That's right, and we enjoyed that dead-end street
Of course you
immensely,
did.
and I'm sure people on 570 would feel the same way. However, we sucked it up. If I'd be so bold to say that. But, yes, so that's my 2 cents worth.
so are you speaking to have 570 open then, for traffic, or not?
So, yes, I would say that, but fundamentally, if you put high-density residents and all that stuff there, you really need to just provide opportunities to
Disperse
traffic
it.
flow. Yeah, so
Would-
for that reason, I would say 570 should
Yeah.
be open. There's 8 houses there, there's 12 on 500. We have children on both streets, but whatever we can do to disperse traffic. One thing we haven't talked about up here yet is 2 access points on State Street.
Because the UDOT won't allow it. We've talked about it.
Yeah, you don't want.
State won't allow.
100 feet apart.
That's kind of what I would say.
Yeah.
Yes, you're not gonna let that happen. But the whole idea is try to disperse all 76 units somewhere, somehow. And the only options you have is 500, 570, and State Street. That's your only 3 options to disperse all that traffic.
Right, and that's why we've brought 6 different plans that have the different.
But I know that it works. I mean, it might not be the most convenient, but it will work. It works in municipalities all over the country, having that access onto a main thoroughfare like State Street. It's not convenient, but the people who purchase there purchase with that knowledge.
I know it.
And so, I mean, that's why I'm still want to say, outside of a crash gate, I don't want to have access to the atmosphere. It's not just the street, it's the atmosphere. It's a different type of, yes, people are going to think that that's a wonderful commodity, but it's also going to change the quality of life, not just the traffic, just the quality of life and how we view Lindon. And for me, this is why I'm here, is to help preserve a little bit of country, and whatever little bit, I don't care if it's an extra few feet, 10 feet in the backyard of some of these homes is going to be a little bit of country for the person who purchased that. 30 feet is going to be wonderful for others, but for me, your life changed when it went through, but I used to be one of those people that drive down your street to go to church once a week. But, try to do that safely, but I also don't want people coming back through there for other access, and they'll find a way to the church. Up 600, they're gonna find a way no matter what, so.
And they'll be right here at the city council saying, why did you do this, or why didn't you do that? So I think hopefully this has helped you. I'm not sure it has, but hopefully it has. But I think if I were you, that I would focus my efforts on access, reducing the density, looking at green space, and parking. And then have multiple options that focus on, if you decide that, you've got some votes here, one that's definitely closed as far as access, just a whatever the breakaway, whatever it's called. And you've got some others that are open to having that access. That doesn't mean you're going to get the vote, but I think if you focus whatever plans to those concerns, then maybe you can move this off center, because I just don't know that we can talk and it's you're going to have a vote, and it more than likely will not be unanimous, even though you'd like that. Sometimes that's not always the case.
I don't need a unanimous vote. I also just want to make a good design.
I want to praise your efforts. My goodness.
Yes, thank you, for sure.
I have done some development, and I said to my wife, we're not going to do any more development while I'm mayor, because it just isn't, I bought a lot of property, did some development. I had 50% of the people that wanted a road to go through and 50% that didn't.
Yeah.
And, it's just the way it is.
Design.
I would love to see what that looks like.
Okay.
If we do that transition, maybe you do two options because
Let me
of
see that one that you're.
Yeah, let's.
I know it's.
That transition is critical.
Yeah.
Don't look at it, Mike. I moved the road up. The idea is, and we can't put houses on the other part because you have to carry the sewer through, but.
I think that transition is critical, whether it's a cul-de-sac or if it's a road through. Transition
is number one, yeah.
Yeah, that's important.
And maybe when we see a lower quantity and how that could disperse, maybe that makes certain elements feel better about the circulation too.
I have a question about the crash gate. So if there's a crash gate, so that road's closed, and then 570, that's still just one exit and entrance, right? Well, that's not for State Street.
Sign it.
Or will there be two entrances on State Street?
Two
500 if it was a crash gate, right?
That's what Randy would like.
Well, would 570 have to be open? One of those have to be open, or would they just have?
No, the crash gate is your second entrance, so you need to stay.
Okay, so then there only needs to be one entrance that can be on State Street?
For sewer.
With a crash gate.
So just one, so 570, sorry, I'm just trying to be clear. So 570 can be closed,
What I was asking
and then
for.
500
And then
can have a crash
this was just gonna be.
One of the discussions. I'm not sure that's going to fly.
Well, no, I'm just wondering if that's like legal. Can you do that?
Yeah, I think part of the discussion is, do we try to adhere to the master plan, and there's discussion whether or not that's visionary or if it's archaic in nature. The other discussion is dispersing the traffic as many points that we can.
Also, those residents are kind of just gonna be locked in there. I mean, that
I mean, if I were a resident, and, I mean, I'm speaking off the cuff here, but if I bought a property in there and I was a member of a certain religious faith, I'd like easy access to that.
Family.
But anyway,
I've almost wondered if there's.
I'm sorry, saying, who knows? I mean, having been in Lyndon, I know that
Thank you.
change.
I just hit my lip.
Just a second, there's a comment? What?
I just wanted, one thing that we talked about a lot in the planning commission, that I've seen on.
You wanna write on this one?
Can you
I mean, I just kind of.
speak a little more clearly?
Yeah, I can take
I'm
this off
sorry.
for that. One thing we talked about a lot on the planning commission that I see on this plan, and just maybe for the council to consider, is the ordinance says between commercial and residential, there needs to be that 7-foot masonry wall, which if you look at those units, there's 6 units there. If you put a 6-foot masonry wall, there's no driveway.
No, 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 the masonry wall would be on the other side of the road. We'd back the building, it'd be right there.
So,
Behind
that
the
was something we
commercial
discussed quite a bit, because the road
That gives that separation at
gives that
least.
separation of residential versus commercial, and if that road's shared,
Oh, my
at the time that road was shared between the commercial,
Here's my
Yeah.
pointer, right?
and then that was
Yeah.
not possible.
We need a
But that's-
bamboo canes.
Just and let's bring that up, because what I don't want is to fix the other problems,
Yes.
Right, I didn't want that.
and then you guys come back
Unintended
with something
problems.
else. Okay, so, right now, we have the road in the commercial part, but it's access, you go through commercial, and there is the road that's technically in the commercial land.
But you don't access that commercial property from that road.
Don't access the
Yeah,
commercial
which is to
property
your point,
whatsoever.
is that right?
And that's why we would wanna put the masonry fence, obviously,
So there's no way they could get
on
in
the
there.
road so
Yeah,
that they couldn't get to the commercial part.
Yeah.
Are you guys okay with that? The planning commission did have some heartburn about the road being there.
Not being in the project.
Yes,
I'm okay with that.
okay.
I think our at the time, there was access to the back of those.
and there's not now
And
based
there's
on,
not now.
so we're
Okay.
probably okay, okay.
Yeah, okay,
Can we bring this
Yeah, we're
to
close.
a temporary close, you think?
yeah,
You have enough? You feeling better?
We'll be back.
I just have one question.
we'll be back.
One more comment, go ahead.
And I've mentioned this to a couple of people before, but I thought it was worth mentioning. When I was looking at this plan with the backyards on the north side, and I was looking at it thinking, well, there's 6 units, so unit 1 and 6, but how does unit 2, 3, 4, and 5 get to their backyard and mow their lawn? If you've got backyards that go clear to to Shawnee Keith's backyard, and
You
you've got
can't fence those backyards.
No, it's an HOA.
Yeah.
It's common maintenance, so the individual owners are not mowing their own yard.
Yeah.
So each week, there's a gate between each of the.
So every single one of those backyards all have gates that go in between every single, so my backyard, like number 3 unit might be fenced in, but you could still access everybody else's
Yeah,
units.
once a week, someone mowing the lawn would go and open each of the.
How do I sign up for that? I mean, how much does it
That
cost,
sounds
right?
better than bringing the lawnmower through the garage and then through the kitchen out the back door.
Someone
That's
next
what I
time mows
envisioned.
the dog out, then I guess they got redundancy with the neighbor's yard.
Right.
Well, thank you,
Okay,
appreciate your input and conversation,
Wait, Carolyn.
and thank you, council. Okay,
Motion to adjourn.
Second.
Randy, all in favor?
Aye.
We are officially adjourned, thank you. I really do think we need to have access, the roads to disperse it.
What I'm thinking, what if we had, so these people offload here, and then we created another dedicated, just as some units dedicate, can go there, instead of a full circular, I don't know.
Yeah?
No.
Length may be a concern, I don't know what that distance is. Because your cul-de-sac, which if it stops here, it's 650 feet is the maximum you can distance. And I don't know what that is, so anyway. Yeah, make it work, go for it.